The daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Incontinence Hilton. If the identification department doesn't come, what should I do with the evidence I prepared? Sheldon picked up a sealed bag from the table, which contained an empty beverage bottle. One of the thieves dared to take a bottle of beverage from my refrigerator and drink it when he was raiding our house. You should be able to find some valid fingerprints on it. Sheldon took out another piece of plastic paper. These are my fingerprints, so you can exclude me from suspicion. Sheldon, what about mine? Leonard asked. I'm sorry, Leonard, it's too early to rule out the possibility of an insider. I'm asking you to shoot him. Isn't it too much? Leonard complained helplessly. Ron, look at what your brother is going crazy about again. Hey, you already live together. Now he's your problem instead of mine. Ron gloated. I'm happy to send him to the ICU for 72 hours of psychiatric observation. The police also agreed with the suggestion. He had long seen that this guy was a little abnormal. I'm not crazy. My mother took me to get tested, but it's also possible that the doctor at the time was a quack. Anyway, not long after he tested you, he went crazy. Maybe mental illness is contagious, Ron complained while drinking his drink, causing Sheldon to glare at him. Ron had just relied on his status to check the surveillance of the apartment building. It was indeed just two stupid thieves. Many people upstairs were robbed. He thought it was a large organization coming to retaliate, but Sheldon was scared. It was rare that they took the initiative to find Ron and asked to sleep together. Are you kidding? Except for when Ron had to sleep in a bunk bed with George in the same room due to the size of the family. When he was a child, he never slept in the same room with a man even when he went to college. As the ace quarterback of the football team, he certainly had the capital to apply for a single dormitory from the school. You know, American universities are very preferential to athletes, not to mention outstanding students like Ron who also have outstanding grades. So, Ron naturally rejected his unreasonable request. But considering that Sheldon's apartment had just been robbed, Ron generously said that Sheldon could sleep at his place tonight. As for himself, he stayed at Max's house and had a good fight with Caroline. Because of the last incident at the cake shop, Ron and Caroline are currently in a state of breaking up, but it doesn't mean that the two can't have some fun by dating, especially if Caroline takes the initiative to invite them. When Ron returned to the apartment again, Sheldon's apartment door had changed a lot, replaced with a new lock that looked very high-end. What is this? Are you going to turn the apartment into a bunker, Ron? This is a titanium fixed bolt lock, an especially reinforced door frame controlled by the most advanced electronic access control system. Do you want one too? Howard pointed to the fruits of his labor and showed off, like a salesman selling door locks, and Ron shook his head. He doesn't need this thing. His force and the directional mines bound to the bedroom door are the best means to deal with thieves and all illegal intruders. Sheldon crossed his arms and questioned the functions Howard boasted about. What if they cut off the power? It has a built-in 200-watt uninterrupted backup power supply. Sheldon was still worried. What if my keys are stolen? It is also equipped with independent voice control and fingerprint scanning systems. What if I am kidnapped, forced to record my voice, and my thumb is cut off by the kidnapper? If the first two doubts are reliable, the third one is just looking for trouble. Ron rolled his eyes. Then I'll send them a check for $10,000 to express my gratitude. Do you have any other questions? Okay, Howard, as the only technical geek with hands-on ability in a 4-member group, continued to show everyone the reliability of the new door lock. In addition to those outside, the house is also equipped with motion detectors, infrared sensors, and monitors, and is connected to a server equipped with the most advanced facial recognition software. That sounds good. Where did you get this thing? Maybe I can get one from my office building. Ron had to admit that he was tempted. For a professional agent like him, this thing might not have much of a deterrent effect, but at least it could cause a lot of trouble to intruders. Ron, who felt that he was offending more and more people, felt it was very necessary to equip his base with one. Well, I'm afraid this is a bit inconvenient. Howard was a little stuck. I have a friend in the Department of Defense, and he only has this set. Only one set? Ron asked suspiciously. Is he so generous to give it to you? If I ask, he will definitely give it to me. The irony is that their security system doesn't seem to be that perfect. Well, if even you can easily steal their things, then it's really redundant to put them in my base. Hearing this, Ron gave up the idea of ordering a set. While they were talking, Penny suddenly opened the door. Rajesh, your car is blocking meeting. Alarm, alarm. Penny just walked into the house, and a metal king suddenly fell from the roof at the door, covering her whole body. FXXK. What the hell is this? Leonard quickly rescued Penny from the big net. What a perfect security system. What's the use of this broken net? Are you going to let me use it to catch tuna? Sheldon complained disdainfully. Don't worry, this fishing net will be electrified. Once it is illuminated, it will fall to the ground and its whole body will convulse uncontrollably, Howard continued to explain. That's more like it, Sheldon nodded with satisfaction. It's really boring. Instead of this, it's better to install a few mines at the door for safety. I won't tell you any more. I didn't get a good rest last night. I'm going to sleep first. Good night, everyone. Ron said hello, stretched his waist and walked to his room. He said he was going on a date with Caroline, but don't forget, that's Max's room. In addition to Caroline, the little white rabbit, there is also a hungry Max in the room. Serving 2 people all night, even a perpetual motion machine can bear it. Ron is a little tired, but tonight is destined to be an extraordinary night. Ron was sleeping soundly, and suddenly an alarm sounded. The sound came from Sheldon's apartment. Ron hurriedly took the gun and ran over, but when he arrived, he almost laughed to death. At the door of the apartment, Sheldon was lying on the ground with a fishing net covering his body, his limbs twitching, and under him, a pool of unknown liquid was flowing out, with a strange smell. Ron pinched his nose in disgust. Sheldon, you are not going to pee your pants, are you? Chapter 227 London Bombing. Christmas is approaching. Ron gets a new greeting card. Thanks to the advancement of technology, Ron took a photo of Sheldon lying in his own urine last night, and recorded it with his mobile phone. It's a pity that there are no photos like Harry Potter, which can be made into GIF greeting cards, otherwise Ron is sure that his greeting card will be the most popular one at Christmas. The only regret is that Sheldon is still in a bad mood. Haha, Sheldon, you really should see your expression at that time, which is exactly the same as the expression when you wet your pants when you were a child. Ron laughed while holding the newly printed greeting card. Ron, you must give me one of this greeting card for Christmas, even if you pay for it. Leonard smiled until his eyes almost disappeared while holding Ron's new greeting card. If you plan to sell it at Qualtech, I guess you can sell as many as you can. Hey. I just can't control my bladder. Everyone has this moment, Sheldon protested dissatisfiedly. Yes, that's right, but you are the only one who will pee in your pants after you turn 20. Laugh as much as you can. I'm going to move to another annoying city soon anyway. You just stay in this sinful city and wait for those criminals to slit your throats while you sleep. Sheldon turned the computer around. Look, these are the cities I plan to go to. Don't you think it's an overreaction to move to a new city just because of this? Leonard came over and asked worriedly. Our apartment was robbed and our security system almost killed me, so I decided to move to Pasadena permanently. Do you think I'm overreacting? Penny came over with snacks and squeezed between the two of them. Please, Sheldon, you can't move away. Shouldn't you stay here? That way, your mothership can find you when it returns. It would be great if that were the case. Sheldon sighed, but unfortunately, I will have to stay on Earth for a long time in the foreseeable future, so I have to find a place that is safer and friendlier than Pasadena, like Enid, Oklahoma. Sheldon stared at the computer screen, and he found a good place, low crime rate, plus high-speed internet, but no model train shop. Sorry, Enid. Sheldon turned around and drew a cross at the location of Enid on the whiteboard with a map of the United States. Hey, Leonard, are you a masochist? Wouldn't it be good for Sheldon to move out? Ron asked in confusion. Then you can live with Penny, and then I can enjoy a 2-bedroom apartment by myself, and I can even have a swimsuit party in it. I can even try to invite the Victoria's Secret Angels to have fun together. Do you want to come to my party then? Leonard and Penny looked at each other and said in unison, Sheldon, goodbye. Sheldon rolled his eyes and continued to select a new place to stay. In London, England, Guan Yuming drove his daughter on the way to shopping. Dad, we have to hurry. There are only 2 sizes left that I can wear. There was a little traffic on the road, and the daughter kept urging. When can I meet him? Any father would feel a little disappointed when his daughter started dating someone else. Guan Yuming was of course worried like all other fathers, thinking that his daughter was deceived by some British ruffian. His name is Chappie, he plays football, you will see him when he comes to pick me up for the dance, the daughter said shyly. Dad, please drive. Guan Yuming was still a little worried. Will he drive you there? He rented a car. You can't drive after drinking. Don't worry, the rented car has a driver, don't worry about it. The daughter hugged Guan Yuming's arm and shook it coquettishly. I believe that in such a situation, every old father will smile dumbly and will never have any idea of preaching again. The skirt you chose is very beautiful and suits you very well, the daughter pecked her father on the face happily. My dad has the best taste. The car drove all the way to the door of the clothing store. Because the traffic jam was a bit serious, the daughter opened the door and jumped out in a hurry without waiting for Guan Yuming to stop the car. Be careful, wait till I park the car, there won't be any size for me in a while. The daughter kissed Guan on the cheek and skipped towards the clothing store. Guan Yuming could only yell at his daughter to be careful when crossing the road, and smiled as he drove the car into the parking space in front. He didn't expect to collide with a car in front that was about to back in. I'm sorry, why are you so careless? Guan Yuming got out of the car and was about to discuss a solution with the other party, when suddenly boom, a car behind him suddenly exploded, and the huge shock wave directly threw Guan Yuming and the owner of the other car out. Guan Yuming hadn't heard of such an explosion for a long time. He staggered to his feet and looked in the direction of the explosion. It turned out to be the clothing store his daughter had just entered. Zio Fan, Guan Yuming shouted his daughter's name and rushed in, but waiting for him inside was only a charred body burned by the explosion. On the other side, Ron, who was watching the news with Leonard and Penny in the apartment, was suddenly attracted by an international news on TV. An hour ago, a terrorist attack using a car bomb occurred on Oxford Street in London. No organization or individual has claimed responsibility for the incident. The casualties are currently unknown. Please see the follow-up report for other details. Ron frowned because he saw a familiar figure on TV. Is this Guan Yuming? Immediately, Ron's phone vibrated violently. I'll take a call. Ron got up and walked to the door of the apartment. Guan, how are you? I just saw you on TV. Is your daughter okay? Xianfan is gone. She just went to the store to buy clothes as usual, and then the bomb, Guan Yuming said halfway, choking and unable to speak. Please accept my condolences. Ron's mood sank. Is there anything I can do for you? Information, I need information. Hearing Ron's words, Guan Yuming forced himself to suppress his grief and said excitedly, I want to know the name of the killer. The British police refuse to tell me anything. I have no choice but to come to you for help. Ron, don't worry, I will provide you with the most detailed information, and more than that, Ron took out another mobile phone to check the flight. I will also take the fastest flight to find you. We are friends, and your business is my business. Chapter 228 30 British Gentlemen. Liverpool, England, late at night, the cold winter wind stung people's faces. Thanks to the strict implementation of the employee protection system, there was no one at the port except a few night patrol security guards, and the night patrol security guards ended their patrols early because it was too cold that night and went to sleep in the security room. Ron and Guan Yuming walked in openly without any obstruction. Ron, why did you bring me here? Don't you already know the identity of the murderer who killed my daughter? Why don't you want to take me to revenge? Are you also in the same group with those British bureaucrats? Guan Yuming asked loudly. It's no wonder that he had such doubts, because Ron's behavior itself was too suspicious. As soon as Guan Yuming picked up Ron at the airport, they were surrounded by a group of black-clad men belonging to the British intelligence agency. Their leader specifically asked to see Ron and did not allow Guan Yuming to follow. Ron talked to the leader for about 3 hours before being released, but he has become very strange since he was released. He claimed that he had all the information about the terrorists, but he didn't explain anything. Instead, he went to the hotel and fell asleep. He slept until 3 hours ago, and then he called Guan Yuming to come to this port to enjoy the cold wind in the middle of the night. No, I am not in the same group with that black-bellied brother Khan. Ron curled his lips. I just reached an agreement with him to use each other, but don't worry, this agreement will not only not hinder your revenge, but can even provide me with a lot of help. Help? Who are they? Guan Yuming automatically ignored the unfamiliar word brother Khan. He was already very old and didn't know much about the trendy words used by young people. Mycroft Holmes, if you often watch the news, you should know that this is an official who specializes in intelligence, And he seems to be quite famous, but what does he have to do with what we are going to do? Guan Yuming stared at Ron seriously, waiting for him to give a practical answer. Guan, I know how eager you are to avenge your daughter. I also have a family. If my family is hurt, I will be more anxious than you, but you have to understand one thing. Ron stood at the dock where cargo was being loaded and unloaded, and suddenly turned around. This terrorist attack is no longer a personal grudge story like in Chinese martial arts novels. It has risen to a political event. Many people are watching this matter and want to participate in it through various means to achieve their desired goals. Do you understand? Guan Yuming looked at a loss. He used to be a professional soldier, and now he is just a restaurant owner. He has never been sensitive to things related to politics. Otherwise, he would not have chosen to stay in that place of right and wrong after being injured in the Vietnam War, and then he would be persecuted when Vietnam, a white-eyed wolf, repaid kindness with enmity and reached out to his former benefactor, causing his other two daughters to die on the way out. Okay, I'll make an exception and explain it to you in detail, but everything I tell you today must be rotten in your stomach, understand? Ron sighed, and finally said reluctantly. Guan Yuming nodded heavily. First of all, the perpetrators of the terrorist attacks were instructed by the IRA. Guan Yuming was both familiar with and unfamiliar with this abbreviation. He was familiar with it because he often saw it on TV, but he was unfamiliar with it because he never cared about any news other than the prices of meat and vegetables. IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, is a terrorist organization that seeks independence for Ireland through violence. Although the British government claims that the organization has abandoned its arms and disbanded in 2001, in fact, they have only adopted some political conditions, such as giving greater autonomy to Ireland except Northern Ireland, and the former leaders of the Irish Republican Army have transformed themselves into bureaucrats in Ireland and the United Kingdom through treaties. Yes, that's right, the Limehands who you have been harassing by phone is a former member of this organization. Although he has claimed that he has nothing to do with the organization, he has been secretly controlling most of the power of the organization. Now, do you understand why your demands are always ignored, Guan? Guan Yuming felt dizzy. He originally thought that this was just an accidental injury in an ordinary terrorist attack. He didn't expect that the involvement was so great. So, it was Lime Hennessy who planned the attack, right? No, it was the separatist forces in the Irish organization he belonged to. The young people didn't want to continue living under British rule, but also wanted to take over power from the old people, so they created this incident to express their wishes to both sides. Ron curled his lips in disdain. After all, they are just a group of angry kids. My younger brother Sheldon, who just ran away from home, is more mature than them. It's just that after putting on the cloak of politics, they have a reason to hurt innocent people. What a bunch of bastards, Guan Yuming cursed. Ron shrugged. Yeah, they're a bunch of bastards. Even the British government authorities think so. That's why they thought of using external forces to crack down on the arrogance of these bastards. Originally, they saw your information from the victim's family. They knew you would not give up, and planned to secretly provide you with some help and teach those bastards a lesson. But now I'm here, so those dirty British gentlemen have new ideas. What do they want? Guan Yuming asked anxiously. As long as they can avenge my daughter, I'll do anything. They want to use my and your power to completely eradicate those bastards. That's right, this is the wish expressed by McCovey when he met Ron. If this result can be achieved, he is willing to pay a price that will satisfy Ron enough, but he still underestimated Ron. Then did you agree? Of course I agreed. Ron showed a playful smile at the corner of his mouth, but how many goals can be completed is my business. In other words, as an American, what reason do I have to travel thousands of miles from the United States to the UK just to clean up the ass of those dirty gentlemen? McCovey's conditions are of course very tempting, but considering Ron's special identity as an agent, this behavior can become treason under the manipulation of politicians. From then on, Ron had a handle and became a pawn in McCovey's hands. Ron was not so stupid. He immediately reported the intelligence to the Pentagon through special channels. So, this game has a new player. Woo, two low whistles were heard in the darkness. And Ron immediately raised his flashlight and flashed twice over there according to the signal. Are you ready for a big fight now? Off. Chapter 229, The Rise of Ireland, King Hands. When it comes to British foreign policy, the first thing that comes to mind is balance of power diplomacy. Since the British territory is isolated overseas on the European continent, the best way for such a country is to let the continent fall into a never-ending fratricide, so that it can always benefit from both sides as a referee and a supplier. The long-term hegemon of the European continent has been hovering between France and Germany. If one side is weak, he will help. If both sides are weak, he certainly doesn't mind throwing away his referee job and personally getting all the benefits. As the son of Britain, the United States has of course learned this trick and changed its name to isolationism. Therefore, if the British father is in trouble, it would be too unfilial if the son does not take advantage of the fire to rob. It really fulfilled the words of a netizen called too much Otaku attribute, the new and old shit stirring sticks, one stick beats another. The above is the general content of international politics that Ron is telling Guan. I don't understand. Even if it's like this, why do we have to dress like this? Can this be used to avenge Liam Hennessy? Guan Yuming lay in the grass, pulling at his military uniform uncomfortably. At first glance, this military uniform looks a bit like a British military uniform, but if an older British person sees this clothing, it will definitely bring back bad memories. This is an Irish Republican Army uniform, and they are in the grass not far from the British military camp at the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. As we all know, the 6 counties in the north of Ireland are politically called Northern Ireland, and they are still under the direct jurisdiction of the United Kingdom, while the 28 counties in the south were officially established as a republic in 1937 and joined the Commonwealth. Because only by dressing like this can we muddy the water to the greatest extent. Understand? Ron put down the telescope and said casually. I still don't understand. Guan Yuming shook his head. No, you will understand soon. Since Liam Hennessy likes power and secretly instigated this terrorist attack, he wants to use this as a threat to let the British government give him more power. Then we might as well do a good deed and help him, and give him more than he wants. Ron smiled kindly, and Guan Yuming immediately had a bad premonition. What are you going to do? You haven't told me yet. What is in the container that the smuggling ship sent to you the day before yesterday? Ron's actions the night before yesterday were simply unreasonable in Guan Yuming's view. He sent 2 boxes, one large and one small, like smuggling. The small box was opened and there were weapons inside, while the large container was sent by Ron to a nearby forest in a truck and hidden. Ah. What are you talking about? Of course it's fish and it's the best tuna. Tuna. Guan Yuming was a little puzzled. I say, you don't think that the CIA will send me alone to do such a big operation, do you? Ron said with a smile. In addition to us, there are many intelligence personnel lurking in Ireland to cooperate with us. Some of them are even responsible for supplying food to the Irish military camps in this area. That box was left for them. I have left them the location coordinates and a secret code. I think the fish meat has now been served on the table by the Irish soldiers. Guan Yuming was even more confused. At this moment, he suddenly found that the thermal imaging detector he placed in the forest had an unusual reaction. Ron, there are people in the forest. Let's go. Don't worry, it's one of us. Ron's smile became even bigger. One of us? Guan Yuming was even more confused. Guan, you are Chinese, right? Guan Yuming nodded, and Ron continued, then I think you may have read records of the Grand Historian. Have you read chapter 48, the biography of Chen Shi? Guan Yuming nodded blankly, but he still felt that it was strange for an American to drag him to lie on the grass and talk about records of the Grand Historian in the middle of the night. Those tuna are of course not ordinary tuna. I specially asked for them to be processed. There are small notes of special paper stuffed in each piece of fish meat, with the slogan Ireland is rising, King Hennessy and the location here. Tonight is the first step of their uprising. Ron pointed to the forest, and the detector detected more and more people. Look, those are the lovely Irish soldiers with independence tendencies. Tonight will surely become a colorful chapter in the history of Irish independence. Liam Hennessy and his wife are both from well-known Irish families. He himself was once a member of the Irish Republican Army and has great prestige in Ireland. His name can just be borrowed for use. Madman, you are simply a madman. Guan Yuming was shocked by Ron's wild plan. He could never have imagined that his revenge plan, as a small person, would indirectly promote the Irish independence uprising. But why haven't they made any moves yet? Guan Yuming asked in surprise after his excitement. First, they are still doubting the authenticity of the matter. Ron picked up the unused fuel air explosive rocket launcher from the ground and began to aim at the opposite military camp. Guan Yuming followed suit and also picked up the rocket launcher. Second, like all major historical events, such as Sarajevo, a fuse is needed. At least, they are still waiting for the brave man who dares to fire the first shot. So what are we waiting for? Swoosh. Swoosh, two rockets, one in front and one behind, dragged long tail flames towards the British military camp. Boom, two small mushroom clouds were blown up in the military camp, and the alarm bells rang immediately. Searchlights immediately swept around in an attempt to find the attackers. And here, Guan Yuming, who had already fallen down, suddenly saw Ron make an unusual move. Ron, who had painted his face green, white and orange to represent the Irish nation, suddenly pulled out a flag with Mel Gibson's head embroidered on it from the ground and rushed toward the military camp. Freedom, the people in the forest did not move at all, but the bullets in the military camp were aimed at him first. Ron was hit so hard that he ran around everywhere with his head in his hands. Finally, he found an opportunity and jumped back into the bushes under the road. FXXK, these Irish cowards, why don't they react at all? Ron cursed. Guan Yuming covered his face. Irish uprising? Why are you holding up Mel Gibson's head, Braveheart? Haven't you seen it? I thought it would inspire their national courage. William Wallace is Scottish. Ron was stunned. However, he quickly found an Irish flag from the flags on the ground, and took the opportunity of Guan Yuming firing to pull him out again. Long live the Republic of Ireland, Ireland is rising. King Hans gunshots rang out in the forest, and the passionate soldiers who came for their ideals finally began to respond. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. Who are the Chinese? One by one, the Irish soldiers rushed towards the British camp while firing. The British counterattack seemed so weak in the constant attacks from all directions. Ron pretended to be shot at the right time and secretly rolled back to the bushes where Guan Yuming was hiding. Quick, turn on the speakers. Turn it off, Ron shouted. Speakers? You don't want to play the theme song of Braveheart, do you? Guan Yuming pressed the switch, and sure enough, the music of Braveheart passed through the high-power speakers placed nearby, and the sound of Irish bagpipes spread everywhere. He felt that Ron was a strange flower, but he now placed all his hopes for revenge for his daughter on Ron. The most important thing was that, at least until now, all of Ron's seemingly unreliable plans actually worked. If there's no BGM, what a hell of a fight, you see, aren't they working harder? Ron observed the situation on the battlefield with satisfaction. At this point, the Irish people had completely gained the upper hand and beat the British so hard that they couldn't raise their heads. Ron even saw that the Irish people actually drove 2 tanks out of the forest. You know, this is just an ordinary infantry barracks for maintaining public order. At most, there are few armored vehicles for transporting troops. Once the tanks come out, the battle situation is basically locked. The Irish have won. The fierce battlefield ignited Guan Yuming's youthful years in the artillery fire, and he murmured. Won, but also lost. Ron has begun to pack up his equipment. Soon, they will get support from other local barracks and form a climate. By then, it can no longer be described as a terrorist attack, but a local rebellion. At that time, the British Army will naturally use an iron fist to tell them why their ancestors were willing to let Northern Ireland be established and join the Commonwealth. However, that has nothing to do with us. Our goal has been achieved. It was Micklef's request to disguise the Irish Republican Army and continue to issue serious provocations to Britain, so that the London gentlemen he represented could put political pressure on the Irish and force them to hand over more autonomy. It's just that Micklef didn't say how far Ron would go. This move just played into Ron's hands. He and the CIA planned to stage an Irish uprising for them to watch. If he asked, Ron would have a good reason to respond. You asked me to do it, didn't you? But Ron's phone hasn't rung yet. As the person in charge of an important British intelligence agency, Micklef couldn't have been unaware of such a big thing, but he didn't call yet, obviously knowing what kind of rogue words Ron would use to fool him. Where are we going now? Guan Yuming asked while driving. Of course we're going to Hans's manor. I think you must know the location of his manor, right? Of course, Guan Yuming agreed excitedly, and his foot on the accelerator couldn't help but increase its pressure. The Irish and the British are now at loggerheads. That cunning old fox must be hiding in his manor to show his innocence and to show that he has nothing to do with this incident. Then let's go to the manor to find him directly. No, Ron opened the navigation on his mobile phone. Let's go to this place first. Put on a British soldier's uniform, and then it will be a script of British Special Forces fighting 007. Limehannes's manor is located on the outskirts of the forest in Carlow County, surrounded by a large grassland. It is more appropriate to call it a luxurious farm than a manor. There is even a special cowshed. According to Ron's intelligence, there are at least more than 100 cows in this farm, but the staff and the security personnel transferred by Hannes are no more than 50. Therefore, Ron began to think crookedly again. "Guan, have you read The Art of War?" Ron stepped down from the observation position and said excitedly. Guan Yuming was confused. Why, after talking to me about records of the Grand Historian, he started talking about the art of war again. "So, are you Chinese or am I Chinese? Why do I feel that you, a foreigner, know Chinese culture better than me, a Chinese?" Guan Yuming felt that Ron was a little unserious. A serious foreigner would at most learn a few irrelevant Chinese words to trick a foreigner into having sex, but who would study those things seriously? "Well, it seems that you haven't read it, which is a pity. It is a good military book." Ron sighed disappointedly after seeing that Guan Yuming didn't reply for a long time. "I haven't read it. What are you going to do?" Ron pointed to the location of the cowshed. "Look over there, because the cowshed smells stronger. The old fox who loves to enjoy himself built a cowshed outside the manor. I guess there should be no one guarding it, and even if there is, it can be easily dealt with." "Then what?" Guan Yuming was still a little confused about Ron's thoughts. "Then we will wrap these plastic bombs around the cows, drive them to the manor, and detonate them with a remote control. If I remember correctly, this move is called the Fireball strategy in Sun Tzu's Art of War. Well, I did hear my elders tell me this story when I was a child, but what's the use? Isn't our goal to kill Hans? With such a big commotion, won't he run away?" Guan Yuming shook his head and raised an objection. "Run? Where can he run? With his skills, does he really dare to run into the forest alone? That would be sending himself to the door. He has read your information and knows that you come from the greatest army in the world. No one would want to fight guerrilla warfare in the forest with someone from that army. Believe me, no one." Ron shook his head confidently. "So, he will definitely go through the main gate with his bodyguards, and we just need to make a few traps on the road, wait for him and them to drive onto the road, and then boom." Ron licked his lips bloodthirstily. He was a little impatient with his own ideas. Well, after so many baptisms of fire and blood, Ron had to admit that he did seem to have some early symptoms of psychopathy, but he thought this was not a bad thing. On the battlefield, there is no room for hesitation. Being kind to your opponent is being cruel to yourself. It was because of this that Ron did not hesitate to shoot when the villain started to pretend to be pitiful so many times, and then he hit and counterattacked many times. On the contrary, his former teammate with a saintly heart was not so lucky. "Guan, let's get started. You go and take care of the bullpen, and I'll set up traps on the road. Remember, don't forget to put a thicker layer of paint on your face, so that even if you are caught by the camera, it will be difficult to identify your true identity through the algorithm." Chapter 231, Hans's Doom and Ron's Recruitment. "How did you handle it?" the woman asked while washing up before bed. Opposite her, standing against the doorframe and drinking whiskey, was Hans. She was Hans' wife. "It's still being handled," the woman frowned. "He injured my brother, and used your name to encourage your supporters to attack the British camp." Yes, I'm sure that all these were done by the Chinese. I've read Huax's books. From beginning to end, he used things from records of the Grand Historian and the Art of War. No one except the Chinese can do it. Don't worry, there's nothing I can't solve." Hans took another sip of whiskey, drank the whole bottle of wine, and said confidently, "Guan Yuming, so I'm not a Chinese. I embarrass the Chinese." "You are just too conceited sometimes," the woman said dissatisfiedly. "I want to go to London and live with my daughter. I really don't think that's a good idea." Hans turned over the whiskey bottle on the sofa in the bedroom, poured it hard into the glass, trying to squeeze out the last drop of liquor, looking like a drunk on the street. He hasn't been drinking for many years, but the pressure caused by Guan Yuming recently is too great. First, he blew up his office in London, and then seriously injured the people he sent to arrest him. Even when he fled to his own farm, he couldn't live in peace. When his men went out to do business, they disappeared quietly and have not been contacted until now. Finally, tonight, Hans just received news that several British military camps on the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland have been attacked to varying degrees, although they have been beaten back by reinforcements. But the bad thing is that the attackers are almost all Irish soldiers, and they all shouted the slogan "Ireland is rising, King Hans," and even his former comrades in the Irish Republican Army kept sending text messages to ask him when he planned to start the uprising. Just now, he had just persuaded those old guys who were ready to make a move to go back. Those old guys were out of touch with this era. No one understood better than him who worked in London how powerful the seemingly weak Britain was. He dared to guarantee that the text messages they had just exchanged were all under the monitoring of the British intelligence agencies. Maybe the agents of MI6 were heading to their residence now. Thinking of this, Hans felt a little uneasy. He shouldn't appear on the assassination list, right? Probably not. At least, they would use their status as a famous family to stabilize the situation, right? Probably. I'm not asking for your consent, but to inform you that it is unlikely that he knows where our daughter lives, and his target is you, not me, the wife shouted angrily. The problem is, since he knows the location of the farm, why doesn't he know our daughter's home in London? Do you want to involve our daughter in this matter? I don't think it's necessary to take the risk, then as you said, you can handle it, the wife compromised helplessly. Just as she was about to go to bed, she suddenly sat up from the bed alertly. Wait, what's that sound? Sound? What sound? Why didn't I hear it? Hans drank a little too much, and even his reaction was a little slow. Even if he pricked up his ears and listened carefully, he didn't hear any special unusual sounds. Listen, no, look, the wife suddenly pointed to his newly opened bottle of whiskey, and saw that the amber liquid in the bottle was swaying back and forth rhythmically, as if it was on a violently shaking boat. Is it an earthquake? Hans finally regained some consciousness, put his hand on the bedroom wall, felt a vibration outside, and suddenly lifted the bedroom curtains. No, it's our cows. Our cows have been released. Where are the people? Send someone to check our cowshed. By the way, drive all my cows back. Hans opened the window and shouted to the bodyguards outside, but as soon as he finished speaking, he saw the most shocking scene in his life. The cows that rushed into the manor suddenly burst into huge flames. Then with a huge roar, the flesh and blood exploded directly into pieces, and the blood and flames turned into enchanting dark orange blood flowers. The bodyguards who were about to drive the cattle were immediately blown up. There were even several bodyguards who were not directly killed by the shock, and their bodies were still pierced with the remains of cows that were scattered by the explosion. Hans's cousin, who is a bodyguard, was lying under his window, holding his stomach with a cow's hoof stuck in his stomach. Run, that Chinese who wants to kill him is here again. Hans had just finished shouting when he saw a more shocking scene from the window. Outside the manor, a British standard off-road vehicle stopped at the door. Two soldiers wearing British military uniforms and painted faces got out of the car. The berets on their heads clearly told of their unusual origins. This is someone from MI6. The British want him dead. FXXK. It's the British. The British are here to kill us. Let's go through the back door. Then drive directly to the road and back to London, Hans shouted, dragging his wife to the back door, where a car had been hidden for him to use at any time to escape. See? The power of Sun Tzu's art of war is so strong. This move is called the fireball. Have you learned it, Guan? Ron casually shot the bodyguard who was still alive at his feet with another bullet in the head, and proudly showed off his knowledge of Chinese culture to Guan Yuming. Guan Yuming, according to Ron's order, taped a plastic bomb under the abdomen of each cow with tape, the same type that killed his daughter. In Ron's words, this is called blood for blood, tooth for tooth. Now he fully understands the pleasure of this kind of revenge. Yes, this is indeed much more convenient than sneaking in slowly. Let's hurry up and don't let Hans get away, Guan Yuming urged. It was a relief, but there was still a little regret, that is, Hans, the instigator of the murder of his daughter and the real planner of the London bombing, had not been caught yet. Don't worry, let's just clean up the garbage here, Ron said while reloading the bodyguard's gun. You don't really think I just went to the forest to be? Don't worry, there's only one road back to London from here, and I have already made arrangements there. We have plenty of time, or should we go on a big adventure to Hans Manor? See if we can find the vault he hid. Although this operation was for humanitarian aid, Ron thought, but Hans didn't think so. Ron still didn't give up any possibility of making money. The pound is much more valuable than the dollar, and the euro is not bad either. It would be even better if we could get some gold by the way. There is almost no possibility of tracing this thing, and if it is lost, it is lost. For example, The Thailand incident made Ron a lot of unexpected wealth. No, Ron, Hans is a legitimate British official, and he has a company under his name that can help him launder his income, so all his property is in the bank account, and we can't take a penny away, Guan Yuming explained helplessly. Ron's money-hungry personality is hopeless. Guan Yuming said regretfully, if you want money, I can give you my restaurant in London. Anyway, after such a big thing happened, I don't plan to stay here anymore. Tisk, how much is your restaurant worth? Besides, didn't you give it to your old lover? Ron squinted his eyes ambiguously. What's her name? I think her last name is Lin. Right, Ron thought of the woman he met at Guan Yuming's house. Guan Yuming handed over the transfer contract and a series of restaurant information to her in front of him. It can be seen that their relationship is not simple. Don't talk nonsense. Lin Baoi and I are just good friends for many years. We are confidants, Guan Yuming explained in a panic. Tisk, explanation is covering up, and covering up is the fact. Ron cleaned up and found that there was no one alive, so he got back in the car. I guess you must have been determined to die before you handed over these properties to her, and she looked at you with love in her eyes. Don't deny it, Guan. I've dated dozens of girlfriends, and I can definitely tell the meaning of this kind of look. Ron shamelessly admitted that he was a scumbag. But as far as the current situation is concerned, it seems that you can't die. Have you ever thought about what to do in the future? You can't live in the sadness of losing your daughter forever. As he said, a violent explosion sounded on the road in the distance. Ron's mouth curled up a smile. It seems that the fish has taken the bait. Now it's time to reel in the rope. With a slight twist of the key, the car started immediately and drove towards the place where the explosion just happened. Yes, you are right, and with such a big thing happening, I can't stay in the UK anymore, but I can't just leave. My affairs may affect Lin, Guan Yuming said annoyedly. His mind is still stuck in the traditional Chinese man's mindset. Although there is no promise, he still has the idea of wanting to be responsible. Ron's true intentions were exposed. Why don't you follow me to the United States? It's fine. Take Lin with you and go to Los Angeles with me. I promise that no one will do anything to you in my territory. After talking so much nonsense, Ron's real purpose was only one, that is, to take Guan Yuming to the United States. Ron saw Guan Yuming's skills and remembered them in his heart. Naturally, there was nothing to say. If he was a few years younger and unarmed, Ron would have to spend a lot of time to deal with him. In addition, with his excellent hands-on ability and tactical qualities from the world's first army, he is much more useful than all of Ron's men. If he can be brought back to become his own men, it would be great. No, Ron, thank you for your kindness, but I don't want to live a life of fighting and killing anymore. I just want to find a place to spend my old age and miss Xiaofan and others for the rest of my life. Guan Yuming decisively declined Ron's kindness. At this point, Ron's off-road vehicle just drove to the vicinity of the explosion. The car that Hans used to escape had already been blown up by the bomb that Ron prepared in advance. Ron glanced at the driver. Hans was hit by multiple steel balls in the bomb and was dead when the explosion occurred. Only his wife was struggling to climb out of the car. Ron parked the car next to him. Please, don't kill me, don't kill me. Please, the woman's eyes were full of pleading. Guan Yuming didn't know why his heart softened. Ron, how about we let her go? Haha, let her go. You've been in a peaceful place for too long. Have you gone crazy? Ron laughed twice and suddenly kicked the woman. Kicking the pistol she suddenly pulled out away. Do you think she will let you go? Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I won't dare to do it again. I have a lot of money, I can give it to you, as long as you don't kill me. Hans did everything. I don't know anything. The woman was stepped on by Ron's hand and screamed like a pig being slaughtered. However, this time, even Guan Yuming had no sympathy. His sympathy had been exhausted when the woman pulled out a gun. Ron had already stuffed the cold muzzle of the gun into the woman's mouth. Listen, you benefited from all the things Hans did, whether good or bad. Have you ever said sorry to the families of those who were killed by him, or shared the dirty money Hans earned with them? No. Ron scolded viciously, and issued a final judgment on the woman. Since you, as his wife, benefited from him when he did those things, when revenge comes, you will go to hell with him. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and a bloody hole appeared behind the woman's head, and then the whole person fell limp, and Guan Yuming also seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed to the ground. I think it's better for you to go to the United States with me. If you don't want to live a life of fighting and killing anymore, I can arrange a job as a cleaner for you in my office. If you still want to open a restaurant, there happens to be a storefront nearby, and I can lend you the chef from my base. He's a very good chef. You can exchange cooking skills when you have time. I have 2 other old guys who are older than you. They are both easy to get along with. Maybe you can form a senior citizen club, but you will definitely become the object of their envy because they are all bachelors. Ron extended his hand to Guan Yuming again, but this time, he did not refuse, but stood up on Ron's hand. Okay, I agree, but I have one last request. Can Lynn go with me? Of course, Ron agreed happily. He knew that his senior citizen club was established. He didn't know what sparks would be created when this group of old men met, but it was certain that this must be the most ferocious group of old people in the whole of Los Angeles. Chapter 232 Old Driver Max. In the end, Guan Yuming accepted Ron's proposal to go back to the United States with him. However, he did not come to Ron's base to work as a cleaner, nor did he have the idea of opening another Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. Instead, he opened an antique shop not far from Ron's base. This move directly made Ron unable to sleep for several nights. This guy, will he invite the Holy Lord and Valen? Ron didn't think that the 12.7mm pistol bullets in his M500 revolver phone would be of any use to the Holy Lord's shadow army. You can't let him hold stinky salted fish and incense and yell at them, demons and ghosts, get out of here. It's hard to say whether others will go crazy or not, but Ron will definitely go crazy. Those monsters are not the ones that the M500 can handle at a glance. In this case, there is no doubt that Ron thinks it is more reliable to urge Sheldon to come up with his death ray. Fortunately, only Guan Yuming and his confidant were running the antique shop for the time being. Ron swore that if he saw another big-nosed woman named Jackie Chan or Xiao Zhent in the shop, he would immediately move to Huaxia with his whole family. He didn't even look back. He couldn't afford to offend, but he could always hide. Thinking of this, he pushed open the door of Sheldon's apartment and planned to make some breakfast. Sheldon's farce of running away from home only lasted for one day, because he ran back in a panic because his luggage was lost at the train station. Since Penny and Leonard officially confirmed their relationship, this lazy girl simply stopped putting food in her own apartment refrigerator and put it directly in the refrigerator of the apartment opposite, so Sheldon's apartment has become Ron's regular place to eat for free. Can it be considered eating for free if the brother eats the brother's food? Definitely not. However, after entering the door, Ron saw a weird scene. Sheldon stood in front of a whiteboard with his back to the whiteboard nervously, and suddenly turned back to look at the content on the board every few seconds, and then Leonard and Penny stood by the kitchen, looking like they were watching a show. Ron, you're finally here, take care of your brother. Leonard was like seeing his savior when he saw Ron coming back. I've said it before, I'll give you custody of Sheldon. It's just right, if you plan to get married, you can use him as a practice. Believe me, after experiencing Sheldon, no matter what kind of naughty child, he will be like an angel in your eyes, Ron said as he poured himself a cup of coffee, and Sheldon rolled his hands into the shape of a telescope and began to observe the whiteboard behind him. What is he doing now? If he's not breaking down the terms of the formula and testing them one by one, he's looking for the hand that was cut off by Peter Pan and swallowed by the alligator, Leonard complained. Captain Hook's hand was eaten by a saltwater crocodile, not an alligator, Sheldon retorted while looking at the formula. If you want to insult me, at least get the facts right first. Ron, are you going to do nothing about it? Sheldon hasn't slept all night. He will definitely get sick if this continues, Penny worriedly said. Even though Sheldon has all kinds of annoying operations, for some reason, he can always arouse women's maternal instinct to the greatest extent. In the past, it was his mother and grandmother, and now it is Penny. Since the 3rd grade, my mom forbade me to hit Sheldon on the head. In her words, you can't destroy the IQ God has given to Sheldon. After it was discovered that I put sleeping pills in his water in high school, I no longer have any way to make him go to bed. Ron took a sip of coffee and patted Leonard's shoulder helplessly. So, can you please keep an eye on him more when you are at work today? Okay. Leonard drank the coffee in one gulp. He felt under a lot of pressure, but you have to pick him up at 7 o'clock in the evening. Penny and I have a date at the skating rink tonight. Howard and Bernadette will also go. It's a 4-person date, 7 o'clock? I should be able to get back from prison in time, Ron said after thinking for a while. During this short chat, Sheldon's madness became even crazier. He just threw a board full of words out of the window. Leonard, He looks like his computer has crashed. Have you tried restarting it? No, believe me, this is a hardware problem, restarting it won't help. Ron looked at Sheldon and confirmed that he was just having intermittent convulsions. He was finally relieved to go out after confirming that there was no major problem. Ron, who had just returned to Los Angeles yesterday, received a message from Mr. Channing in prison. He wanted to meet with Ron. Because he asked the prison guard to contact him, he didn't explain the reason. Ron needed to go there to take care of him. In Shawshank prison, since the old warden committed suicide because of Andy's letter of revelation, the new warden has become a newcomer of Francis' faction, and he has some friendship with Ron. Therefore, Channing's treatment in prison has also been greatly improved. Not only has the weekly golf time been changed from once a week to 3 times a week, but also an extra TV has been added to his single bedroom. The treatment has become the top level in the entire prison, and Channing is very grateful for this. I'm curious why my dad suddenly asked us to come and see him immediately this time. Before Ron arrived, 2 beautiful guests had already come to visit Mr. Channing. Before Channing arrived, Caroline and Max had already begun to discuss the content of the visit that Channing had taken the initiative to request today. Maybe he wants to have a lover visit, Max, Caroline said angrily. Don't react so much. It's me and him who are having a visit, not you, Max explained, but her explanation did not relieve Caroline's anxiety at all, but made her more worried. Fortunately, Mr. Channing had arrived. You are here, the light of my life, and her bodyguard, Dad. Caroline happily hugged her father, and then Channing spread his hands to Max. Start right away? Don't you want some foreplay first? Max, an experienced driver, was driving, and Mr. Channing smiled and hugged her gently and sat in his seat. I'm sorry to have you come all the way here, and you have to take the subway. I don't even have the heart to say this word, but I actually have something I need your help with. Although Mr. Channing received preferential treatment in prison because of Ron, visiting hours were still very limited, so he tried to be brief and get straight to the point. Mr. Channing suddenly whispered, "Help me escape from prison," before Caroline and Max, who were sitting opposite him, could react. The door of the visiting room was pushed open again, and a big hand was placed on Mr. Channing's shoulder. Then maybe I need to tattoo the map of the prison on Caroline first, then lend her a gun to rob a bank and arrange for you to be locked up together, so that you can find the weakness of this prison according to the map and escape smoothly. But the warden will be in trouble. He and I are good friends, so I will definitely not do this. You won't blame me, right? Ron smiled and greeted everyone. Long time no see, Mr. Channing, and Caroline. Okay, I was just joking, Channing smiled. Even if he had the chance to go out, he would never go out. God knows how many rich people who were cheated of money by him wanted to kill him. But he was sure that those people at least didn't have the ability to kill him through this strictly managed prison system. Brother, you can go out now. I'm watching over here, don't worry. Ron patted the prison guard's shoulder, stuffed a $50 tip into his jacket pocket and sent him away, then took a chair and sat next to Caroline, with his hand on her waist. Dad, it's great that you're still in the mood to joke, but don't do it in front of Max, okay? She'll take it seriously. She's already threatened to skin the prison guard alive for you so you can sneak out under his skin. Hey, you know this trick is obviously feasible, okay? Max retorted. Ron looked at Mr. Channing with a scrutinizing look. Mr. Channing, are you really going to go out? If you want to go out, I can help you arrange it. Recently, my teacher has taken a job to help the prison system check loopholes. He will be thrown into any prison in the United States as a prisoner, and then escape by his own ability. You just need to find someone who looks like Stallone in First Blood among the new prisoners, and then go with him, and you can get out. No, you misunderstood. I'm really just talking. It's good here. I'm going to participate in the Prison Cup Golf Exchange tournament soon, and our team can't be without me, Mr. Channing said in a joking tone. Ron happened to meet Channing's eyes, and the two smiled at each other, and everything was said without words. Listen, there's a woman I used to employ who was paid $1 million to write a book revealing all my private files. $1 million, Max shouted in surprise. Then how much can I get for writing a book revealing all my private files? I have already thought of the content of the first chapter, farting while sleeping. Haha, Max, if you finish the book, be sure to let me know. I must buy a copy and read it carefully. In front of Ron, Caroline's face suddenly turned red. Max, can you stop mentioning this every time? Mr. Channing continued to bring the topic back to the point. The woman's name is Sandra Rosenthal. Caroline, do you remember her? Of course I remember. The woman who lied on her resume. She couldn't even do addition. And what's more outrageous is that her dressing taste is very bad. Caroline was deeply impressed. Wait, she said she had something against you. She said she knew the inside information of the whole Ponzi scheme, and she had sex with me, Mr. Channing said. His face looked a little abnormal, but he still covered it up well. But in fact, she didn't. Of course you won't have sex with such a tasteless woman. Caroline still has confidence in her father's aesthetic taste. Anyway, Mr. Channing concluded, I want to let you know about this first, because she is going to be on Piers Morgan's talk show, and then she will talk nonsense. Don't worry, she won't, because I will refute her lies for you. Next, it was Caroline's time to interact with Mr. Channing. Caroline took the initiative to defend Mr. Channing, while Ron watched coldly, because he felt that the matter was not so simple. Otherwise, Channing would not have called him over before this. Okay, thank you, my little angel. I don't know what to do without you. Okay, you go first. I have something to talk to Ron alone. By the way, Max can also stay. Sure enough, he came. As soon as Caroline left the visiting room, Channing couldn't wait to say, Ron, Max, I want you to tell Caroline something for me. I'm embarrassed to tell her. I knew that there must be something else that kept me here. Let's talk about it. Ron shrugged and said easily. That woman also claimed that I have a little bird. Ron, you know what I mean. Channing's tone was helpless and embarrassed. Wait, you kept me here. Don't you want me to help you bird watching to wash away the stigma? Max, the old driver, drove again. Ha ha ha. Ron laughed so hard that tears came out. If you want, I can also take a picture for you and post it on Twitter with a passerby's account. Don't worry, with our friendship for so many years, even if you really have a size defect, I can help you find a few photo retouching experts to help you make it a bigger size. No, I just want you to tell Caroline to prepare her. I'm very sure that the shameless woman used this to make her new book a big hit, Channing said angrily. Any man would feel ashamed and helpless if he was told he couldn't do this. He couldn't just take a bird-watching photo and post it on Twitter, as Ron said. He would lose his dignity. Perhaps the man behind the woman had this in mind. If he couldn't kill her, he would destroy her reputation. The Channing family was not the only one doing business. The whole family was well known in the wealthy circle of the United States. If their conspiracy succeeded, the Channing family's reputation would be ruined. However, Max only had one focus. She glanced down with curiosity. How much water in her words? Believe me, very much. Channing adjusted his pants and said awkwardly, Max, why don't you wait for a while at the door so that Ron and I can talk alone? Okay, you guys talk, Max said, and retreated to the door. Before leaving, she mouthed to Ron, don't forget to tell me how big it is after you look at it. Okay, now the women are out. What do you want me to do? Ron asked, crossing his legs. Chapter 233 Disobedient Sheldon. Can you help me deal with that woman? I don't want them to discuss my size in public on a TV show. Mr. Channing sighed helplessly. At first, he thought that if he hid in jail and handed Caroline to Ron for protection, those deceived capitalists would be helpless against him. Facts have proved that he thought too much. The reason why capitalists are capitalists is that they are much more shameless than ordinary people. It is amazing that they can come up with such a trick. Impossible, Mr. Channing. No matter how hateful that woman is, it's just a libel crime. It's not to pour cement on her and sink her into the sea. It's too much, really too much. Ron waved his hand. No, I mean, can you ask her not to appear on the radio and talk nonsense? Caroline's personality should be difficult to accept. Believe me, she is no longer the little princess in the greenhouse you think she is. Ron waved to Caroline, who kept gesturing to him outside the door, and rested his arm on the table again. Mr. Channing, this incident may prove this to you. I will not intervene before things are hopeless. I believe Caroline will do everything she can to defend you. Let's wait and see the best result. How about it? Channing was stunned. After thinking for a while, he finally agreed. Ron also asked the two sisters if they wanted to go back to the city together. After receiving a negative answer, he drove back to Los Angeles alone. Ron had reconciled with Caroline last time the store closed, but Mr. Channing's matter made her unable to face Ron. She couldn't discuss the size of her father with Ron on the way back, right? That would be too weird. When Ron returned home, He had to face his cute brother who drove the psychiatrist crazy. He didn't know if his madness had improved. However, the facts disappointed him. In the apartment, plastic marbles were thrown all over the floor. Leonard was rubbing his buttocks and the other was holding his arm. It was obvious that he had fallen once. Sheldon had a bird's nest hair and was curled up on the chair in a dirty state. The most important thing is that he is still wearing yesterday's clothes, which means he has not slept for 3 days, let alone taken a bath. Ron covered his nose. Hey, Leonard, haven't I given you the custody of Sheldon? Can't you throw him into the lake to rinse him? Or find a pet hospital to give him a bath? Do you think I haven't tried to do this? He is much stronger than me, and he can bite people. Leonard moved to the sofa and complained. Well, you should have told me earlier, so that I could buy a big enough cage on the way back, and then I could use a hose to help him flush through the cage. Ron walked in front of Sheldon, but Sheldon seemed not to see him, his eyes fixed on the plastic beads on the ground, as if he was still living in his own world. Sheldon, what are you doing? Ron didn't expect Sheldon to respond, but he actually spoke. Doing what I have been doing for the past 3 days, trying to figure out why electrons behave as if they have no mass when passing through graphene. Just use these marbles. Ron expressed doubt. I have to find something bigger than a bean. Sheldon, when was the last time you slept through school? Ron said gently, trying to imitate his mother Mary. He now understood how difficult it was for George and Mary to raise 4 children. About 2 or 3 days ago? It doesn't matter. I don't need sleep. I just want answers, Sheldon muttered, fiddling with marbles on the ground. I want to find out what is blocking the toad of truth in this swamp full of unbalanced equations. Toad of truth. Ron turned his head to look at Leonard. What new term is this in your physics community? No. That's the term for lunatics. Well, what a poor child. Ron gently touched Sheldon's head. Now Sheldon used all his energy to think, and had no extra energy to care about Ron's invasion of him. However, this action seemed so harmonious and loving from the outside. What a wonderful brotherhood. Bernadette leaned her head on Howard's shoulder and said intoxicatedly, when I was a child, my brothers and sisters fought over everything. I never thought it could be like this. Jose, can we have a pair of brothers in the future? Of course, we can try it tonight, Howard responded coquettishly. Leonard pouted. They were indeed thinking about the same thing, but the difference was that Bernadette was mostly thinking about the results, while Howard's mind was filled with various postures in the process. However, this harmonious and friendly situation did not last long. While Ron was stroking Sheldon's messy hair with one hand, he slowly pulled his chair with force, moving closer to the bedroom little by little. When Sheldon, who had become dull, finally found something wrong, he just said hi, and Ron's hand stroking his head suddenly pushed his head back hard. Bang! Sheldon hit the wall behind him and fell softly on Ron. The originally warm and friendly scene of brothers and sisters instantly turned into a large-scale brother-killing scene. Bernadette, who was still intoxicated, immediately opened her mouth in shock. Ron, what are you doing? You killed your brother. No, don't worry, he just fainted. Ron carried Sheldon on his shoulders. This is the only way to deal with bad boys who are disobedient and determined not to go to school. Leonard, Howard, come and help. Here you are. What do I need? Help you bury the body. Howard felt very happy. If you are willing to bury him in the ground, I promise to dig a hole for him now. Ron carried Sheldon and threw him directly into the bathtub in the bathroom. Come and help me get the pipe to rinse him casually. This guy smells so bad that I can smell it in the apartment opposite. Then you can help him change into a bathrobe and throw him to his bedroom. Thank you for your help. After Ron finished speaking, he patted his head and prepared to leave. But what if he wakes up again? Leonard said worriedly. Don't worry, that blow is enough for him to rest for more than 3 hours, Ron said with great experience. If he wakes up again, you can knock him out again. Ron walked halfway and turned back, took out a stun gun from his pocket and stuffed it into Leonard's hand. Considering your strength, it may be safer to use this. Come on, I'm rooting for you. Chapter 234 The Cooper Family's Solution to the Problem. At night, Ron slept soundly, but Leonard was a bit miserable. When Ron saw him at breakfast, Leonard's eyes were sunken and his eye bags were so big that they almost drooped down his face. He looked like he was dead. Good morning, Leonard, you look very tired? Did you play with Penny yesterday? Did you take medicine? Ron asked curiously. Based on the noises in the bedroom opposite when Leonard stayed in this apartment in the past, Ron could infer that Leonard usually tossed and turned for 10 to 15 minutes, and at most twice a night. Unless he took medicine, it would be impossible to do it in one night. It's your dear brother Sheldon. Leonard looked very resentful, like a woman who just caught her husband cheating. He woke up by himself last night and sneaked into the ocean ball area of the children's playground. Do you know how much effort I had to catch him? I'm curious about how he got into the children's playground. Ron took a bite of the sandwich and asked with interest. The back door of that children's park is equipped with a 5-pin brake system and a single-circuit alarm. This kind of child stuff is not difficult for Sheldon, or any well-trained physicist can handle it. Well, it turns out that learning physics is useful in this way. Maybe you can start a practical physics class and I'll let my men learn it. Ron finished his sandwich in 2 bites. But why did he go to the ocean ball area of the children's park in the middle of the night? You might as well ask him yourself. Leonard also made himself a sandwich, poured a cup of coffee and sat next to Ron, while Sheldon just walked out of the bedroom. He looked so excited that he didn't look like a person who hadn't slept for 3 days. I planned to use a ball bigger than a pinball to build a carbon atom model, but when I asked Leonard to help me sort out the protons and neutrons, he did nothing and pulled me out rudely, Sheldon accused indignantly. You should be thankful that he didn't have a gun in his hand, otherwise I guarantee he would definitely shoot at you until he ran out of bullets. Ron sighed. Next time I'll give you a rope. You can tie him up and throw him on the bed, so he won't run around. Leonard nodded in agreement. Hey, Ron, I haven't told you yet. Did you hit my head yesterday? I still feel pain in the back of my head now. I must tell my mother. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. Ron denied 3 times. You need evidence to say such things. Do you have it? God is my witness. You fainted because you didn't sleep for too long. Really? Sheldon was also a little suspicious. In fact, he didn't have any memory of Ron knocking him out, because he was concentrating on thinking about scientific problems at the time. Of course, Ron quickly changed the subject. What are your plans for today? Keep thinking about your physics problem. Ron was certainly not afraid of him telling his mother about this little trick. In fact, this trick had lost its binding force on him since Ron started earning his own money in junior high school. He just didn't want Mary to be sad about the brothers' disagreement. Having a son like Sheldon was enough to give the kind lady a headache. I think I found the answer. Ahem. What? Leonard almost choked to death on a mouthful of coffee. Have you solved the graphene problem? You can try to compete for the Nobel Prize with this. No, that problem is still stuck. Sheldon waved his hands. But I have thought of a solution. What the hell are you talking about? Sheldon brought milk and approached the two of them mysteriously. Einstein. Einstein? Are you going to build an atomic bomb to kill the person who raised this question? Good idea. You have a talent for being an agent, Sheldon, Ron praised. Usually every time I encounter a problem that cannot be solved, I just kill the person who raised the problem, and the problem will be solved. Old George said that our family has always solved problems in this way. You are worthy of being a member of the Cooper family. You can think of such a wonderful method. No, that's not what I'm talking about, Sheldon explained. When Einstein was working at the patent office, he came up with a theory of special relativity. I thought I could find a lowly job that would only require my basal ganglia, so that my frontal lobe could focus on solving key problems. Although I don't quite understand what you're saying, well, it's a good idea. What other job are you going to do? Sheldon looked back and forth between Leonard and Ron, and said, how about I try being an agent? It seems like this job is lowly enough. Sheldon was halfway through his words when Ron pulled out his pistol like lightning. Bang! A hole was punched in Sheldon's milk carton, and the milk flowed all over Sheldon. Sheldon stood there like a fool, letting the milk flow over his body without any reaction. Really? Sheldon, do you think you can handle this job? Ron, like a cowboy, put the rotary phone to his lips and blew away the smoke, then spun it around his fingers and put it back into the holster. Oh my. I'm so scared. Sheldon's reaction came late until Ron took back the gun. This poor kid, he was so scared that he even spoke Chinese. Ha ha ha, Sheldon, you peed your pants again. Leonard laughed heartily. Every time Sheldon got humiliated, he was very happy. That's milk, Sheldon retorted dissatisfiedly, wiping himself clean with a tissue. Sheldon finally remembered the fear of being dominated by Ron when he was a child, and he didn't dare to have any ideas about Ron again. He could only focus his attention on Leonard again. Leonard, can I go to your laboratory today? Leonard swore that he had never been so eager to be as good as Ron in shooting as he is now. Forget it, Sheldon, come with me today. Don't you want a lowly job? I can let you work as a cleaner in my base, or work as a waiter in the restaurant next door. The restaurant next door is also an industry of my base. The person in charge there is Mr. Hannibal. Just tell him that you are my brother." Ron had enough of Sheldon and took the initiative to think of a way for him. "Yes, waiter, this job is definitely lowly. Why didn't I think of that? I could go to Penny's store to help out," Sheldon suddenly realized. But for some reason, his super high IQ and intuition made him directly choose the store where Penny worked. "I always felt that there was something wrong with the store opened by Ron." Chapter 235 Tip-Off. Sheldon's farce did not last a full day, and ended with a burst of inspiration, solving the problem on his own. Although Ron did not understand much about science, he remembered that this time, Sheldon still had no chance of winning the Nobel Prize, and even the MacArthur Genius Award, which he spoke in a bland tone but had jealousy written all over his face. Maybe there were too many talented scientists this year? In short, as long as Sheldon stopped running around like crazy, Ron would be able to do a lot more easily, so Ron had time to go to Toretto to chat. "Toretto, I heard that there have been many cases of luxury cars being lost in Los Angeles recently. It's probably some bad boss who tempted young people who don't know much about the world to buy luxury cars with loans, and then sent people to steal the cars back when they couldn't pay back the loans. This has nothing to do with you, right?" Well, although it was just a chat, Ron was actually testing. "No, this matter has nothing to do with me," Toretto slid out from under the car. "I'm still running this repair shop purely for my hobby. You know how much money I have. It's not worth it for me to spend that meager income." "That's true," Ron nodded in agreement. "I'm just reminding you that if you plan to do any business recently, don't forget to report it to me, and remember to pay taxes after the deal is done." In the Brazil operation, Ron and Toretto's team raised a total of $100 million. The money they got was enough for Toretto to live a happy life of luxury and debauchery for the first half of his life. Ron handed a bottle of Corona to Toretto, and he opened a bottle of Lone Star beer and clinked glasses with him. Since Ron became a regular customer of Toretto's auto repair shop, he always kept at least half a dozen Lone Star beers in his refrigerator. "This way, my IRS Special Operations team will have enough position to protect you, understand? Don't worry, if there's any activity, I will report it to you as soon as possible." Toretto drank the beer and said with satisfaction, "But if you are interested in this case, you can go to the car dealership across the street to investigate. There's a black guy named Franklin over there. He looks pretty good. If it was in the past, maybe I would let him come to work in my shop." "Come to work in your shop? Would that mean being a member of the car robbery gang with you?" But Ron still remembered this name silently in his heart. Maybe there will be a chance to meet him in the future. Ron understood Toretto's hint immediately, but he was not interested at all. "No, as long as this case has nothing to do with you, I am even less interested in it. It's just that the big guy Hobbs seems to have set his sights on this case. It is said that it is related to one of his subordinates. He intends to take this opportunity to reorganize his subordinates." "I understand. The reputation of the FBI is not very good recently." Toretto took another bottle of wine from the refrigerator and drank it while shaking his head. "Really? What other gossip do they have? You can make me happy. As a member of the IRS, nothing makes me happier than seeing the other two agencies get into trouble," Ron gloated. "I just heard that some FBI agents were involved in drug trafficking. Just yesterday, an FBI agent hijacked a student car not far from my store and stole the drugs that the kids had just bought. Maybe you can help me record a video next time, and I can show it to Hobbs at the next security meeting." Ron looked up at the watch hanging in the repair shop. "Okay, it's time. I'm leaving first, and we'll talk next time. I'm going to send my Barbie doll to TV now. There are still 2 hours left before Caroline and the vicious woman who published a book to mock Mr. Channing will defend him on the show." Ron promised to go with him. At the recording side of CNN, an American cable news talk show in Los Angeles, Caroline began to get a little nervous. "Ron, I don't know if I can handle that vicious woman. What if everything she said is true? She does know that I have a pink princess bed." "How did she know that?" "Because the whole world knows that Barbie has a pink car, a pink pony, and a pink princess bed. That's what I gave my niece Lily as her birthday present last time. You can rest assured, here he comes, the real Piers Morgan." Caroline excitedly shook Max's hand. "Do you think it's a bit too abrupt for me to ask him for a discount at the furniture store right now?" But Max's focus was a little different. Ron took out a business card and stuffed it into Max's hand. It wouldn't be intrusive if you took my business card and asked him for it, although I don't think your cabin looks like it can fit more furniture. He looks noble. He probably won't ask about size. Caroline was obviously not on the same channel as the two of them, but she still chatted with them. What if he asks? I'm so scared. Ron, give me the phone. You just need to cheer up. Max pushed Caroline forward and encouraged. Okay, calm down, I can do it. Caroline encouraged herself and walked forward. As soon as she left, Max nudged Ron with his elbow. Hey, Mr. Knight of Princess Barbie, you must be ready to deal with the princess, right? Yes, Ron nodded. Although the old king is not within the protection of this knight, it can be regarded as a kind of value-added service. Blake's eyes were shining. She knew that Ron always had tricks. So what do you plan to do? What do you think of me hiring a few practitioners in the special service industry to publicly express their protest against the false descriptions in her book? I can also find someone to Photoshop a few photos and ensure that they look similar to the ones in the small movies you usually watch. You are worthy of being a guardian knight. Tisk. Hey, I'm your guardian knight too. Okay. Ron took advantage of no one's preparation and kissed Max on the lips dishonestly. As long as you need my help with anything, I will definitely help you. Even if I have to be jealous, it should be me who is jealous, right? I always feel that you care a little too much about Mr. Channing's affairs. I just think he's a good man and shouldn't be treated like this. Max skillfully unlocked Caroline's cell phone password. Look, this is him working with UNICEF. This is him raising funds for the poor in Africa. This is him swimming in the rich man's lake for charity. Look at that smile and so on. Max's hand that was swiping the photos suddenly stopped, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Chapter 236 Mr. Jinning with amazing capital. Max said wait, but his fingers were zooming in on the screen of his phone, zooming in on the photo of Mr. Channing in a swimsuit, focusing on a private part. What's that thing sticking out of the left leg of his swimming trunks? Let me see. Ron took the phone and smiled sweetly. Well, I think this photo can effectively refute the false slander of that vicious woman about Mr. Channing. Indeed, this is the second largest thing I have ever seen in my life, Max exclaimed. Ron proudly asked, knowing the answer. Second, then who is first? Is it the handsome guy I see in the mirror every day? No, I'm talking about the NBA player, Ibaka. Max lightly punched Ron in the chest. Okay, I'm talking about you. Are you satisfied now? If you can go back later tonight, I will be more satisfied. Okay, back to the topic. How do you plan to let Caroline show this photo in front of the host? I don't think she is the kind of person who would mention her father in front of everyone, you know? She will definitely be self-righteous and use what she thinks is a more noble means to fight back. Ron's understanding of Caroline is not shallow. At this moment, Caroline was sitting nervously in front of the host, and she was the first to question the vicious woman. Okay, let's start with you. The host finished his opening remarks and went straight into the topic. Here's the thing. The biggest motivation behind Ms. Rosenthal's work is that the truth about something she reveals is, in your words, it's very small. The host changed his rhetoric in a gentlemanly manner. What do you have to say about this, Miss Channing? Max began to signal Caroline, pointing at her phone to show her, but it was too far away for Caroline to see clearly. I won't make any comments, Pierce, because I'm more stylish. Caroline looked a little angry, but I do have a question for Ms. Rosenthal, who my father once hired. Because she claims to have a PhD in finance, this girl will be blown to pieces by her. Ron covered his face. Sure enough, Caroline's spoiled girl problem came back. Are you talking about Rosenthal? No, I'm talking about Caroline. The fact that the other party can use such a despicable trick to create popularity for herself shows that the woman is just a female hooligan with no bottom line. Ron's comments are always to the point. The Chuhan contention in ancient China tells us a truth. That is, a gentleman can never beat a hooligan, unless he also loses his gentleman's airs. Only the hooligan's methods can defeat the hooligan. Hey, you seem to have forgotten my existence. Max squatted down. If that girl is a gentleman, then I am a complete female hooligan. I will help her deal with that woman. After that, Max crawled towards the studio along the blind spot where the camera could not capture. At this time, Caroline had just asked her question. Ms. Rosenthal. A train carrying 27 people left the Grand Central Station at 9 a.m. and arrived in Chicago, 800 miles away, at 5 p.m. What is the speed of the train? This Dr. Waterworks was stumped by the question, but she didn't intend to argue with Caroline on this issue. and immediately turned the topic to what she was good at, that is, frame up. I also have a math question for you. If a 3-inch long train enters a tunnel, can the tunnel feel the train entering? Ha 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 ha. Ron burst into laughter. This woman really has no bottom line to the extreme. The host couldn't bear it anymore and knocked on the table, trying to get the topic back to the point. Ladies, this is not the no bottom line program on the next TV station. Pierce, I just want to point out that if she is competent for financial work, she should be able to answer the question just now. Everything written in my book is true, and she can't prove anything I said is false, the vicious woman declared again, but there was a booing from the audience. It's outrageous that a doctor of finance can't even solve such a simple math problem. Although there is a lot of happy education in the United States, no matter how happy it is not so happy that multiplication and division are not taught. If your academic qualifications are proven to be true, it is simply the biggest accusation of the American education system. When Caroline was at a loss, a tender white hand suddenly stretched out from under the table, put the phone in front of her, and then tapped the screen. Caroline quickly put the phone back into the hand and pressed it. Wait, why is there a woman under my table? The host was surprised. The staff hurried forward and planned to invite Max down, but they were stopped by Ron just as they were about to act. Guys, don't rush to work. I promise that what follows will be the most classic scene in the history of TV talk shows. In addition, which one of you is the director? I have a very good material here. I believe you will definitely use it. Just before Max left, Ron had used Caroline's phone to send the photo of Mr. Channing to his own phone. Now might be the time to use it. You said you have great material. What is it? A fat man stood up from the chair. He seemed to be the person in charge here. This is it, the same one they are watching now. Ron handed the phone to the fat man, pointed out the key parts and zoomed in, and at this time Max, with the help of Ron, moved the other end of the table and presented the phone to the host again. He zoomed in on the picture and gave a thumbs up. Okay, this is very Max. What is this? The host showed the same confused expression as the director, and then suddenly realized, okay, I know what this is. I have one myself, but whose is it? Why are you showing it to me? That's my father's. He accidentally poked his head out. Caroline looked embarrassed. At the same time, the audience who were watching TV and were full of anger also saw the same content through the picture that Ron sent to the director. Oh, all the audience in front of the TV exclaimed in unison. Mom, I don't know what kind of man you want, the host said sincerely, but this man is obviously the best among men. Honestly, this is far from what you described. I will end this interview immediately because you and your book have no credibility. Everything ends here. Yes, Max and Ron, who had returned, high-fived and made a victory gesture to Caroline. Ron was also very satisfied. Now, what Mr. Channing asked was completed, right? Now the whole world understands his greatness. Thank you all for your support and suggestions. I won't add the supernatural power for now. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Valentine's Day Discussion. Mr. Channing's problem was finally solved, and everyone was happy, except Channing himself, who was still in prison. Because of his news, the whole world is talking about his privacy. But this has nothing to do with Ron. Because he spent a rare quiet Christmas without any blind terrorists to mess up, and no missions to go out, he had to face the thing that every scumbag fears the most. That is, who should he spend Valentine's Day with? Even Leonard Howard, who finally didn't have to spend Valentine's Day alone for the first time, was discussing this issue. Hey, Howard, how are you and Bernadette going to spend your first Valentine's Day? Leonard first brought up the topic of how to celebrate the holiday. I've racked my brains. I plan to take her to eat the $39.95 couple set meal specially provided by Huagwin. Howard was extremely excited. The set meal includes egg rolls, dumplings, and countless stir-fry dishes. The most important thing is that you can take a photo with a marble horse at the door. It's exciting just to think about it, right? I think you're probably the only one who will be excited about this. To be honest, I now understand more and more why you have only found your first official girlfriend now. Do you really think women will be interested in this? Ron answered while eating the food on the plate. Valentine's Day is approaching, and Giselle has been hinting that she can ask him out that day. Of course, the other women have no reason to let him go, so he can only hide in Caltech under the pretext of inspecting the progress of the drone project. But in reality, Sheldon was much better at spoiling the fun and, considering that Saint Valentine was a Roman priest who was stoned and beheaded in the 3rd century AD, isn't it a more reasonable way to celebrate with your girlfriend to watch a brutal murder on such a night? I understand what you mean, but if there's a choice, Jews always choose Chinese food. Howard resisted. To be honest, Sheldon's suggestion today is very good. If you are willing to take Bernadette to a movie after dinner, it will definitely make your relationship warmer. Really? Howard asked doubtfully. His doubt was not mainly directed at Ron. He regarded every word of Ron, the great lover, as an imperial decree, and judging from past records, it always worked well. But as we all know, any advice about love becomes unreliable once Sheldon's element is added. Of course it's true. Think about it. In a dimly lit movie theater, when a movie shows a bloody and scary scene, what do women usually do? Of course they're scared and run around. Ron gave the correct answer without waiting for their answer. At this time, nothing can make them feel more at ease than a warm embrace. Understand what I mean? But you need to consider one thing. Howard's girlfriend Bernadette is a biologist, and when Howard watches a horror movie, he is often the one who screams the loudest. Rajesh said. Well, I thought Sheldon was the one who screamed the loudest. No, Sheldon is usually the first to faint, Rajesh complained dissatisfiedly, and his dissatisfaction was mainly directed at everyone present, because among all the people, only he and Sheldon are still single dogs. Or rather, only himself, because Sheldon is enough with physics, and physicists don't need women. If any of you are interested, I can tell you that this Valentine's Day I will buy a roast chicken from the supermarket like I did in previous years, take it home, stand by the sink, open the package and eat it with my hands like a beast. Ron, what about you? Me? I will probably do everything I can to satisfy all those women, and then spend the day exhausted. To be honest, I would rather go to Jurassic Park alone with only a pair of nail clippers. When those women get ruthless, they are not much worse than the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Ron's face was a little gloomy. Of course, women would not eat him up like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but they could drain all his energy. Just think about how many women he would have to face on that day. In comparison, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was easier to deal with. If it was in the right terrain, such as a forest with many dense trees, Ron could completely rely on the terrain advantage to run back and forth until the Tyrannosaurus Rex was exhausted. Through the study of modern reptiles, we know that the physical fitness of reptiles is generally abnormal. The animal with the best physical strength in the world should be the terrible ape, and Ron and his girlfriend happen to belong to this category. Very good. Then to sum up, one is a marble horse, one is a single dog who goes home alone to eat PUBG, and one is going to Jurassic Park to fight the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Let me see, who is left? Yes, only my plan is left. Leonard laughed so hard that his eyes almost disappeared, but the scene suddenly became awkward. Everyone was eating their own food and no one responded, so he could only make up for it himself. Does anyone want to ask how I plan to spend my time? Aren't you planning to have a huge fight with Penny at home while I'm not at home? Ron said boringly while picking at his food, but I suggest you prepare the little blue pill in advance. From my usual intuitive feeling as a listener, it's a bit disappointing. No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is just my previous plan, and now the situation has changed. Leonard quickly changed the topic of his own time. Guess who the school plans to send to Switzerland to attend this seminar and visit the CERN Super Collider? Professor Norton. Although only God knows why, he hasn't published any famous articles since he won the Nobel Prize. Sheldon was jealous and almost crazy. In fact, Professor Norton can't go. He twisted his waist while rock climbing. They invited me to replace him, and I can take another person with me. Leonard was afraid that Ron would say something unfavorable to him, so he quickly announced the answer. Oh, God, congratulations. Everyone congratulated in unison, but Sheldon's way of congratulation was a little different. It's really unbelievable. I don't even want to question why they chose you. Sheldon acted happier than Leonard. He pushed away the food and got up in a hurry when he was only halfway through the meal. I want to go home and pack my luggage now. I thought you were going to take Penny. Ron patted Leonard's shoulder in confusion. How desperate are you to take Sheldon to Switzerland on Valentine's Day? Chapter 238 Bank Robbery. Could it be that Penny is just a cover for you, and you've actually been targeting my brother Daisy? Ron thought of a possibility. Everyone was calm and quietly moved their chairs away from Leonard. "No, I'm completely normal, and I was planning to take Penny with me," Leonard explained quickly. "Oh, okay, then I guess you will face a very embarrassing situation when you go home." Leonard could only look at Ron for help again. "Ron, what do you say? Can you help me persuade Sheldon?" "Persuade him? No, I want to persuade you instead." Ron cleared the plate and wiped his mouth with a napkin with satisfaction. "Although our Cooper family is a devout Christian, we are still open to homosexuality. For example, my cousin Mitchell married his gay husband, and the two of them adopted an Asian baby. So if you really have any ideas, you don't have to hide them." "No, I swear I have absolutely no interest in Sheldon." Leonard raised his hand and swore, "I only love Penny." "Then I guess you will be in trouble when you go home." Ron stood up. "Thank you for the hospitality, brothers. The cafeteria at Caltech is indeed not bad, but there is still room for improvement, or next time there is a chance, I can take you to experience the food at the IRS." "Good luck." Ron patted Leonard on the shoulder and said goodbye. Everyone looked at him with sympathy. Everyone knew that Sheldon would never give up until he achieved his goal. A fight was about to start in the apartment, but it had nothing to do with Ron, because he was on his way to Hollywood Boulevard, because just 2 hours ago, he had received a text message from Hobbs asking for help. The man, whose knowledge business was slightly behind schedule because his brain was filled with muscles, had another problem that he couldn't solve. Without any capable subordinates, he could only ask Ron for help again. On Hollywood Boulevard, at the door of a bank not far away, the FBI's isolation line was surrounded by people watching the excitement, constantly crowding in, taking out their mobile phones to try to take a photo as a souvenir, and the police could only keep pushing them out. The reporters had already gathered like sharks smelling blood, setting up various cameras outside under the banner of freedom of the press and pointing the lenses inside. If they could take pictures of the robbers, they would make a profit, and if they could take pictures of the police being defeated, it would be even better. "What's going on inside now?" Ron climbed over the curtain, casually flashed his ID, sent away the two policemen who were maintaining order, and then walked to Hobbs' side. "As you can see, we received a call 3 hours ago. A policeman patrolling here found abnormal smoke coming out of the bank. When he was about to check, the robbers inside pointed a gun at him and told him to mind his own business. That's when we found out that the bank was robbed." Hobbs yelled depressedly. "Ron, can you believe it? It's the 21st century, and there are still idiots who think of robbing a bank. They don't take us seriously at all." "Let me correct you. It doesn't include me, so it's not us." Ron was so angry as soon as he opened his mouth, but Hobbs had to ask someone to do something for him, so he could only bear it. "In that case, why not just get rid of the kidnappers? What's the trouble? Why waste time? The trouble is that there are still 50 hostages inside. And these guys are very cunning and keep putting smoke at the windows and doors. Our snipers can't move at all. If we force an attack, it will definitely cause hostage damage, so we can only do this now. It's really troublesome. It's more comfortable to be a policeman in Russia. Just rush in. I will definitely make them regret being born," Hobbs complained angrily. Ron raised his hand and glanced at his watch. "In other words, the incident happened around 10 o'clock in the morning, right? You have been in a stalemate with them until now? There's not even a trial attack." "No, the higher-ups gave the order, but I refused. The reporters came too quickly. If there are shots of hostage casualties on TV, I will definitely take the blame. I'm not stupid." Hobbs said that big guys are also smart. While Hobbs was explaining, Ron carefully compared the bank building drawings provided by Hobbs's men with the bank itself. "This bank has been in use for 60 years. There are no other buildings near the bank. There are no other exits except the front door and the back door. How did they get in? Did the surveillance camera capture their faces or figures? At least let us confirm the identities of this group of people." "No, nothing." Speaking of this, Hobbs became even more depressed. "They just released a hostage. According to the hostage, they sneaked into the bank disguised as painters, and as soon as they entered the bank, they used infrared equipment to turn off all the cameras in the bank. And I asked the technical department to check the car they drove. It was registered as lost 2 days ago. There are no fingerprints or other traces on it, as if no one has ever driven it. This group of people must have planned it in advance and planned it for a long time." "Nonsense. Anyone who robs a bank will prepare a full plan in advance. You just said that they released a hostage? What kind of person is that? Why did they let him out?" Ron showed some interest in the hostage. That was a 73-year-old man who was released because of an emergency heart attack. He also brought out a note asking us to send food in. So you did it. What if you didn't? There are reporters outside. Hobbs pointed outside, and immediately caused another flash of light. Well, I have to say that you made a wrong decision. Sure enough, I shouldn't expect a gorilla like you to have intelligence. Ron spread his hands. You don't plan to put sleeping pills in the food, do you? Please, don't be childish, okay? Even I know that the police outside sent food to choose a hostage to try. Hobbs rarely found a sense of superiority in intelligence in front of Ron, and hurriedly laughed. I used a better idea. I asked my men to send pizza inside, and then put a bug in the pizza box. Soon, we will know what they said. Ron shook his head. He felt that Hobbs's IQ was really hopeless, but at the same time, he also found that this group of robbers was a little unusual. Believe me, these guys are smarter than you think. I bet they will see through this little trick of a bug. Do you believe it? Chapter 239 Ron's Little Thoughts? How is that possible? The bug has started to send back voices, but they are speaking a language I don't recognize. I guess it's Russian. Soon, the language expert will come to help me crack it. This time, you must have guessed wrong, Hobbs said with great confidence. Then let's wait and see. I think this group of people is very wrong. Ron shrugged his shoulders and found a comfortable seat in the command car. Although he also couldn't understand what was said in the bug, one thing was certain. The voice definitely didn't sound like the tone of ordinary people talking, but more like the tone of a speech. As a person who is often told by the principal I just said a few words and I'll say it at the last minute at sports meetings in his previous life, Ron was very familiar with this tone. Sure enough, reality soon slapped Hobbs hard. After the language expert concluded that it was not Russian, Hobbs finally learned from the pizza delivery boy that it should be Albanian, and then invited the pizza boy's ex-girlfriend who knew Albanian. After agreeing to help her get rid of a sack of traffic violations, Hobbs finally got the answer he wanted. That's the president of Albania, Enver Hoxha. Ron finally couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into laughter. Wait? Who did you say that was? Hobbs couldn't believe his ears. You're telling me that the former president of Albania is robbing a bank? Are you sure you're not kidding me? Enver Hoxha died a long time ago, the pizza guy's ex-girlfriend said indifferently while smoking a cigarette. Anyway, this big stupid agent has promised to deal with her traffic violations, so this trip was not in vain. That's a tape of him talking about how great the Albanians are. When I was in school, I asked to be listened to all that nonsense every day. I could even memorize it. Blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure that's his speech tape. Okay, officer, you can take her home. Hobbs sent the woman away, and immediately turned back to glare at Ron fiercely. FXXK. Did you know this a long time ago? Come on, how could I possibly understand Albanian? Ron shrugged. I've said it before, your method is too naive, and these robbers are obviously not the ordinary ones you've seen before. At least, they are not the kind of idiots who only know how to shoot randomly. Admit it, Hobbs. This group of people are a group of high IQ criminals, different from all the robbers you've seen before. Ron found a seat next to the command table again. At this time, there was a commotion at the bank, and another hostage with a suitcase hanging around his neck was released. The police immediately surrounded him as if they were facing a great enemy. After removing the mask and hood covering the hostage's face, and even taking off the poor Indian's turban and carefully scrubbing it, he was finally brought to Hobbs. Ron said nothing, sitting quietly beside him, watching the case record and listening to their interrogation. Sure enough, until the end of the interrogation, Hobbs still found nothing, but Ron's eyes became brighter and brighter, and he finally found the most wrong thing about the whole robbery. Hobbs finally finished the interrogation and stretched his back tiredly on the chair. Damn, another one who knows nothing. They dared to ask me for a plane and cash, and said that the next food would not be pizza, but sandwiches. This is clearly a provocation, and they are clearly doing it on purpose. Hobbs said angrily. They had discovered the bug in the pizza a long time ago, and they were just playing with him. He had never been played so badly in all his years as a policeman. Hey, I'm talking to you, what are you thinking about? Hobbs saw that Ron had not moved for a long time, so he pushed him and Ron came back to his senses. Sorry, I'm thinking about something, Ron said with an apologetic smile. Hobbs, this is all the records from the time of the crime until now. Have you noticed anything? What? Hobbs asked curiously. Ron was about to speak when he suddenly changed his mind and said, nothing. Maybe I was wrong, Ron noticed that from all the case records, this group of people had not fired a single shot since the beginning of the robbery. Yes, not a single shot. This was not the first time Ron had encountered a bank robbery, but it was the first time he had seen a group of people who had not fired a single shot from beginning to end. According to the general process, after entering the robbery procedure, they always had to fire 2 shots in the lobby to prove their threat so that the hostages would obey. In this case, according to the confessions of the patrol police and the released hostages, they did not fire more than 1 shot. Even some hostages who clearly violated the robbers' orders were not effectively punished except for being beaten. What was even more peculiar was that there was at least 20 minutes between the time when the patrol police discovered the robbery and the time when the police arrived at the scene, which was enough for the robbers to escape. But how did they do it? Not only did they not run away, but they hid in the bank with the hostages. This is not normal at all. If Ron were to rob the bank himself, he would definitely fire 2 shots to scare the people in the bank first, and then take the money and run away as quickly as possible. This is the process that a normal robber should follow. But this group of people had it all wrong. Even from their actions such as releasing the hostages, Ron could see that they were trying to delay time, which surprised him a little. Delay time? Generally speaking, don't the police want to delay time as long as possible? So the question is, why did the robber do this? Ron found a lot of questions, but he didn't plan to share them with Hobbs, because he suddenly remembered that if this group of people had other intentions, then maybe he could directly benefit from this case. Hobbs's men reporting to the commander, "We have checked the boxes on the hostages just now. There is no bomb inside, only a note with the robber's demands. Read, 2 cars with full gas and a large jet airliner with full gas are parked on the runway of Los Angeles International Airport. If they are not ready by 9 o'clock, we will kill 1 hostage every hour in front of the camera. Explosives are installed in the bank. If necessary, we will detonate them. In any case, we must not give them the plane. The money they robbed from the bank is not worth the money for a plane." Hobbs slammed the table. "Ron, what do you say?" Chapter 240, The Trick. "What can I say? This is your case. I am just assisting from the side. If it wasn't for the anonymous person calling me, I wouldn't even come." "You continue." Ron waved his hand, indicating that Hobbs could do whatever he wanted, as he was just a passerby. Just when Hobbs was at a loss, his men came again, bringing with them a well-dressed old man. "Sorry, boss, this is Mr. Arthur Cass." I am the chairman of this bank." "Nice to meet you, Agent Hobbs." The old man introduced himself before the police officer finished introducing himself, and took a few steps forward and stretched out his hand. At the same time, Ron, who was originally blocked by Hobbs's huge body, was also exposed to his sight. The old man's eyes twitched violently when Hobbs saw it. "Mr. Cass, good afternoon, long time no see." Ron didn't wait for Hobbs to speak, and directly stood up to greet him, and took the initiative to shake hands with Cass. Hobbs's hand, which was about to shake hands, could only be awkwardly frozen in midair. "Do you know each other?" "Of course. Mr. Cass is a giant in the Los Angeles banking industry, a pioneer in resisting tyranny and taxation. Thanks to him, we didn't collect much tax from the pockets of these banking giants last year," Ron said with a half-smile. "If it were the period of the War of Independence, maybe Mr. Cass could still get the title of a freedom fighter, and I would probably become a running dog of the tyrannical British government, right? Dear Mr. Cass, as everyone knows, Ron's job is to collect taxes for the financial department, but there are always some people who will rely on their status as capitalists and openly use various means to evade taxes, so that Ron's actual tax amount is not as rich as imagined. Among them, these respected bankers are the most. After all, they come from a financial background. Various financial means are as simple as drinking water for them, such as buying art and setting up various charitable foundations. Some of them have no way to put the taxes they should pay back into their pockets. But Ron couldn't do anything to them, because all their methods were in compliance with the law. "Of course not," Mr. Cass quickly denied. "I want to ask, this case is my responsibility." Hobbs took the initiative to answer before he finished asking. "Don't worry, I will keep an eye on them here, and when the time is right, I will take them all down, and they won't be able to take a penny from the bank. Do you have any other information you need to know?" "No, I just came to see if there is anything I can help with," Cass said nervously. This reaction seemed a little abnormal to Ron. "Did they make any requests?" "They want a plane." Hobbs was about to speak, but Ron spoke first, and at the same time, He kept scanning Cass with his scrutinizing eyes. He smelled something unusual. "Do you need me to prepare one for you?" Mr. Cass blurted out almost without thinking. In return, the whole room fell silent at the same time, and everyone stared at him in confusion. "The robbers wanted a plane, and you gave him a plane. Are you kidding?" "I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood." Mr. Cass quickly apologized for his confusion just now. "It's okay, Mr. Cass, where can we find you if we need you?" Hobbs frowned. He was ready to chase him away. Fortunately, the old man was tactful enough and immediately replied, "There are my people everywhere here. I will stay nearby for a while and will not disturb you." After that, he walked out of the command room trembling with his crutches. The old man just left Hobson and immediately said seriously, "Ron, this is a bit abnormal." "Abnormal? What do you mean?" Ron remained calm on the surface, but was shocked in his heart. Could it be that this big stupid bear also found something wrong? Generally speaking, these stingy capitalists will try their best to ask us to protect their property. For this, they will even use their connections to threaten us. "I have never seen such a good talking capitalist," Hobbs said with emotion. He had handled similar cases before, but those were capitalists who suffered losses. They never cared about the lives of the police and detectives. They relied on their connections in the political arena and kept giving them orders. This was the first time he met such a good talking person. Ron continued calmly, "So what do you think is the reason? Maybe this Mr. Cass is a good person." Hobbs gave an answer that made him laugh and cry. Ron's tension immediately dissipated. Sure enough, the big stupid bear was worthy of being a big stupid bear. It was even more difficult to just let him figure it out by himself than to expect Sheldon to be reasonable. Of course, even though he cheated on his wife, kept a mistress, hired someone to kill someone, maliciously slandered his competitors, and tried every means to evade taxes, I know he must be a good person. You are right, Hobbs, keep sticking to your ideas. Ron looked at Hobbs with a look of pity, which made her feel uncomfortable. What? Did I say something wrong? No, of course not. Ron felt the phone in his pocket vibrating, patted Hobbs's shoulder, and immediately left under the pretext of being, "You stay here and watch, I'm going to the bathroom." The guy here had just left the command vehicle and immediately walked to a blind spot that the camera could not capture, took out his phone and called Taj. Taj was a good friend of Toretto. From the Brazil operation to now, he has had many contacts with Ron. Among all the hackers Ron knew, Taj was second only to Peggy and Ramsey and Strzenth. "Taji, how is the information I asked you to check for me just now?" As soon as Mr. Cass entered the command vehicle, Ron secretly sent a text message to Taji to check Mr. Cass's information. It was Taji's call just now. "Hey, Ron, you will never guess what I found out." Taji's rat-like voice sounded in the receiver. "I found out that Mr. Cass is actually one of the targets of Mossad. He played a very disgraceful role in World War II, but because there has been no evidence, Mossad has only listed him as a person of concern and has not taken any further action." "This is interesting." Ron showed a playful expression on his face. His thoughts are getting clearer and clearer now. This robbery case is like a specially set trap. At first, he thought that the people who joined the game were those idiots from the FBI, but now it seems that this trap is just a trap set for Mr. Cass. How can I know what he did at the time? There is no need for solid evidence. If Mossad can't find it, we can't find it either. As long as there are rumors, it will be fine. Chapter 241 Batman Begins. After several rounds of confrontation with the robbers, Hobbs finally lost his patience and began to organize his men to prepare for a strong attack. But before they began to attack, a mysterious boss suddenly stopped his plan and airdropped a female lawyer to him to take with him to negotiate with the robbers. Ron didn't know what kind of interests were involved, but he was not in the mood to get involved in the exchange of interests among the capitalists, because he had more interesting things in his eyes, so he said goodbye to Hobbs and left. But in fact, he didn't leave, but changed his clothes and reappeared on the top of the building opposite the bank. Standing with him, there was another middle-aged man wearing an orange tights and a wig to cover his bald head. He was pulling his clothes and complaining. "Boss, I have to say, this outfit looks really stupid. I really don't understand why I have to wear this. No way, we are a special operation, so we must hide our tracks, understand?" Ron's voice came from under the Batman mask. After being processed by the voice changer, even those who are familiar with him can't hear his own voice. "But why do we have to wear these clothes of characters from retarded children's comics? We look like..." Arthur was stuck and couldn't think of any suitable adjective. Like a psycho. Yes, that's it. Arthur turned around uncomfortably in front of the puddle on the ground. After seeing his two long hairy legs exposed under his tight shorts, he felt inexplicably shy. But this outfit is too ridiculous, right? Why can't I wear the same as you? When did you hear that there are two Batmen in Gotham City? Ron picked up the machine on the ground, adjusted it, handed it to Arthur, and picked up another one. You should be glad that I can't buy clothes that fit Hank's body shape, otherwise Hank would have come with me. I beg you to ask him to come if this happens next time. Shut up. Start working now. If you keep talking nonsense, I will buy you Nico Robin's clothes next time. Ron was annoyed by Arthur's nagging and said harshly. Since Arthur started dating, Ron obviously found that Arthur had changed. He was no longer the ruthless killer who didn't talk much. Instead, he was becoming more and more chatty and disturbing. Nicole Robin? Who is that? Believe me, you definitely don't want to know. As soon as Ron finished speaking, he closed one eye and glanced at the bank opposite, then moved his fingers slightly. Swish! A sound of breaking through the air came from the machine, and a dart similar to a fishing gun shot out from the muzzle and pierced the roof of the opposite bank. Arthur followed suit and nailed a dart to the roof of the opposite bank. Then the two smiled at each other and slid through the air along the zip line, with their cloaks fluttering in the air. When they flew to the roof of the opposite bank, Ron immediately cut the rope with a knife and pressed the button on the remote control. The machine on the other side started to run at a high speed, and the cut rope was rolled back by the machine before it could fall down. The sniper who was aiming at the bank across the street opened his mouth in surprise. He was just distracted and looking up at the sky, but he didn't expect to see Batman and Robin flying through the sky. Oh my God. This must be an illusion. This is Los Angeles, not Gotham City. The sniper rubbed his eyes in disbelief, and when he looked again, Batman and Robin had disappeared. The sniper hesitated. He didn't know whether he should report this to his superiors. If he didn't report it, he would definitely take the responsibility if something happened, but if he reported it, he would almost certainly be laughed at by his colleagues. Batman is in Los Angeles? What a joke. After hesitating for a long time, the sniper finally made up his mind to regard what he saw just now as his own eyes, and never report it to his superiors. What he didn't know was that almost at the same time, several other policemen who witnessed Batman at the same time made the same decision in their hearts. On the other side, Ron and Arthur sneaked into the bank along the stairs on the roof. Arthur was moving forward as quietly as possible with the killer's unique steps, but Ron packed his backpack and walked forward without hesitation as if he was at home. When passing by the office, Ron even took an apple from the table and started eating it. He didn't have the coolness of Batman at all. Arthur frowned. Boss, I think you should pay attention to the sound of your footsteps. You will attract the robbers quickly. Are you teaching me how to do things? Ron's eyes slanted. No, I just hope you can leave professional matters to professionals. Although I don't mind having a gunfight with robbers in the bank, I think that must not be your original idea. After Arthur finished speaking, Ron not only did not restrain himself, but became more arrogant. He even turned on the computer in the office and played a movie. Then have you ever thought that what I am doing now is my purpose? Ron grabbed another apple on the desk and gave it to Arthur, who was wearing Robin's clothes, and then turned up the volume of the movie to the maximum, as if he was afraid that others would not know. Interestingly, the movie Ron played happened to be the first film in the new Batman series directed by Christopher Nolan, Batman Begins. Ron was not afraid, so Arthur had nothing to be afraid of. As a result, Apple sat on the chair next to Ron and started eating it in big mouthfuls. The noise in the office on the top floor certainly could not fail to attract the attention of the robbers. The leading robber left an accomplice to guard the hostages and immediately went up with the other two henchmen. They walked carefully along the stairs, approaching the office little by little, but after all, they were not professionals. In the middle, one of them even accidentally touched the table next to him, which scared the leading robber so much that he pointed the muzzle of the gun towards the office nervously, fearing that the intruder would rush out with a gun in the next second. But the people in the office were not alarmed by the noise from their side. Instead, they ate apples and watched the movie with relish, just like two brain-dead chunibayao. The leader made a gesture to let the people behind him stop, and he walked to the door step by step again, then suddenly dodged and pointed the gun at the two people in strange clothes. Put your hands up. Put down your weapons. Weapons? You shouldn't say that, right? Ron shook the apple in his hand at him with a smile. I don't think this thing should be considered a weapon. What do you think, Robin? Of course, if apples are considered weapons, then bananas should be pistols. What do you think? I'm pointing a banana at you now, are you scared? Arthur also imitated Ron's behavior. Peeled the banana in a funny way, and pointed it at the robber leader who came in. The leader of the robbers had no intention of relaxing. Instead, he pointed his gun at them nervously. They nodded and said, "Who are you?" "As you can see, we are Batman and Robin. When we were chasing the Joker, we jumped into a hole with her, and the hole brought us here." Ron crossed his legs, put his hands on his chest and said seriously, "Yes, that's right, it's like this. We seem to have traveled through time. In your time and space, we seem to be characters in a comic movie. This is not Gotham City, right?" At this time, the robber's other two men also followed, and the robber who was planning to point a gun at them was stunned. One of the robbers even asked his companions foolishly, "Is there really a time travel in this world? How is it possible? He must be talking nonsense." "Don't believe it." The robber leader took a deep breath. He felt that he had never been so tired facing the police all day. "Well, respected Mr. Batman, can I ask, what is your purpose here? If you plan to continue searching for the Joker, I can tell you clearly that we don't have such a person here. If you have any other ideas, it is recommended that you first consider whether the gun in my hand will agree, and then carefully put forward your ideas. But for now, I don't mind letting the famous Batman and Robin become one of my hostages. What do you think?" After saying that, the robber leader put his fingers that were originally on the gun into the class's finger guard, staring at Ron and Arthur closely, waiting for them to behave a little bit wrong and then shoot immediately. The two men behind him also pulled a bolt at the same time, waiting for the leader's order to shoot Ron and the other two into sieves. Arthur had already tensed up all his muscles. Facing a gun-wielding opponent at this distance, he was confident that he could deal with him. At this moment, he only waited for Ron's order to take down the rookie in front of him. Yes, this was definitely a rookie. Arthur could vouch for it with his more than 10 years of experience as a killer. The way this group of people held their guns was not the way they usually used to rob people. Ron, on the other hand, looked as if he was pointing at his 3 AK rifles as toys bought from a children's store. He nonchalantly moved the muzzles of the guns aside and stood up. The leader and the other two robbers quickly and nervously pointed their guns at him again, but Ron ignored them. Not only that, he also held the muzzles of 2 AK rifles against his head. Relax, we have no ill intentions, and if we had any, you wouldn't be able to do anything to me, right?" Ron said with a smile. "Don't move. If you dare to move again, I will kill you immediately." "Kill me? Come on." Ron took a step forward and used his head to push the two armed robbers back a step, and then continued in a teasing tone, "Please, poor rookies, if you want to act a little more realistically. Whether it's bank robbers or terrorists, I've seen a lot of them. Not to mention holding a few broken guns, I've even seen people driving tanks on the road. Would I be afraid of you 3 guns? Believe it or not, I will kill you." Seeing that Ron was not afraid at all, one of the robbers lost his composure and kicked Ron's calf viciously. But Ron was faster. Before the robber's foot could touch Ron, Ron had already swung his arm and slapped the robber in the face. Pah! He was slapped and turned 180 degrees on the spot before he fell to the ground in a daze. "Don't move. If you dare to make any move again, I will start shooting immediately. Do you believe I will kill you now?" The female robber behind the leader shrank back in fear, shouting fiercely. "Ha ha ha, kill me." Ron laughed until tears came out. "If you want to kill you, just shoot. Don't you know how? If not, I can teach you. Look like this." Ron put his head back on the muzzle of the female robber's gun, held the female robber's small hand that was shaking because of fear with both hands, and pressed her finger on the trigger. Bang! The trigger was pressed, but nothing happened. Ron still stood there, and Arthur's originally tense muscles relaxed. So these guys' guns are all fake? No wonder Ron didn't seem nervous from the beginning. It must be said that these people are really bold, holding fake guns to rob banks. The gun in his hand is fake, but the one in my hand is different. Do you want to try it? The leader of the robbers did not retreat like his men. At this time, it was a competition of momentum. Even though he knew that his gun was fake, he could not lose an aura. Instead, he raised the gun again. However, this time, Ron did not choose to expose him, but slowed down his tone. "Relax, my friend. You know Batman has always been a messenger of justice, so we are here to maintain justice this time." "Justice? That depends on whose justice it is." At this time, The conversation between the two was like a puzzle. The robbers' men wisely took 2 steps back and put away their fangs and claws. Since I'm telling you this, it's of course my own justice. Although I can't tell you what kind of justice this is, I can be sure that it's not the kind of justice of... Are you satisfied with this answer, Mr. Robber? Or should I call you Mr. Mossad Agent? Ron tried to call out the name he guessed, but the other party didn't respond. Instead, he asked curiously, Mossad? Are you talking about the Israeli intelligence organization? No, we are not from Mossad. Ron heard that his tone didn't sound fake, so he believed it for the time being. If it was Mossad, they shouldn't even bring real guns. Moreover, if it was Mossad, they would also take more bloody means to retaliate against those war criminals in World War II. Well, no matter who you are, I want to negotiate a deal with you. As you know, I am very interested in some documents that the chairman of the bank has placed in the safe, but these things happen to be useless to you. They will be more useful in my hands. What do you think? The leader said vigilantly. Not very good. Why should I trust you? Indeed, whether the other party is Mossad or Jewish extremists, there is no reason to trust a stranger, but Ron was prepared. What do you think about this? Ron took out a ring from his pocket. It was given to him by the old Freemason when he was looking for treasure last time. Chapter 242 Ron's Reasoning. The pupils of the robber leader shrank sharply. Ron knew something was going to happen when he saw his reaction. However, before continuing the discussion, he still needed to continue to intimidate this conceited robber. Of course, he didn't use violence like he usually did. The most useful method to deal with such a high IQ criminal who was extremely conceited about his IQ was of course to attack him in terms of intelligence. I heard that you also asked all the hostages to change into the same clothes as you, Ron asked knowingly. If I'm not mistaken, you must want to mix all your people into the hostages and escape together when you evacuate, right? The robber leader was shaking all over. If there was no mask covering him, Ron would definitely see the shocked expression on his face. But it didn't matter if he couldn't see it. His silent reaction further confirmed that Ron's guess was right. Ha, I didn't guess it, did I? It's a really old-fashioned way, only the big stupid bear outside wouldn't have thought of it. Ron laughed, but what makes me more curious is, how do you plan to take the things out? You can't make such a big noise just to amuse the police, right? The robber's men next to him snorted complacently. Since you are so smart, you can just make a good guess. Since you said so, then I'll take a guess. Ron raised the corner of his mouth and began his reasoning. Since your original plan was to blend in with the hostages and run away, then I guess cash is not an option at all, because you can't take it out, right? Nonsense, the robber's men complained bluntly. Ron didn't care at all. So, what you are targeting should be the kind of things that are easy to carry, or even inconspicuous. So that would be. Seeing the increasingly smug look in the eyes of the 3 robbers, Ron suddenly came to his senses. No matter what it is, as long as it belongs to the bank, you can't take it out, because you will be searched when you go out, and then your identity will be exposed. So, you must have other ideas, right? Of course, our bosses. Shut up, the robbers' men wanted to show off, but were immediately stopped by the leader. Ron showed a playful smile and continued his reasoning. So, you only have 2 ways left. The first is that there is an unknown secret passage in this bank that can lead to a way out, but I have seen the architectural design drawings of the bank, and it is impossible. So, there is only one possibility left, that is, you will leave at least one person, carry the things you are targeting and live in the bank until the incident is over, and then walk out of the bank openly as a normal bank customer. Ron pointed his hand at the leader. Am I right? Click. Ron's reasoning caused a sound of bolts being pulled. Just as Arthur was about to move, Ron immediately pressed his shoulder lightly and said jokingly, What? Did I get it right? Do you want to silence me? Ron pulled the AK rifle of the busted female robber who had been teased just now and pressed it against his chest. But are you really sure that you can kill someone with a toy gun? If you want to kill someone, use this. Ron suddenly took advantage of the busted female robber's unpreparedness, grabbed her gun and pulled her into his arms, and in the blink of an eye, he used a revolving gun that he didn't know where to put against her head. In a flash, Ron didn't forget to secretly pinch her huge softness, causing the woman to scream, and another robber's subordinate was anxious. Let her go. At the same time, Arthur also quickly pulled out his pistol and pressed it against the head of the robber's subordinate who had been shouting, and the situation was reversed in an instant. What? Do you think I have the capital to negotiate with you now? Dear Mr. Robber, The robber leader's face turned livid. Okay, you win. What do you want? Let me make it clear first. The diamonds in the bank safe can only be divided into half for you at most. I have no interest in things like diamonds that are marketed. Ron kissed the woman gently on the face and pushed her back to the leader. But, as I said just now, I am very interested in some other things in it, such as the evidence that the bank directors once worked for the. This thing may be useless in your hands, but in my hands, it can guarantee the maximum profit. Why should I believe that you and the people in the bank are not on the same group? Ron's words immediately alerted the robber leader. No reason. If you must ask, it's probably because I have a gun in my hand. Ron seemed to casually move the firing pin of the revolver and pointed the muzzle at his head. Or do you want to bet that there is no bullet in my gun? Ron swore that if the other party answered that he was betting that there was no bullet in his gun, Ron would shoot him in the head no matter what. Yam Shuang, who doesn't have the ability to learn anything. This kid must not be kept. The robber leader put his hand in his pocket, was silent for a moment, and finally took out an envelope from his pocket. Okay, you win. Ron took the envelope with satisfaction and handed it to Arthur beside him. Arthur opened the envelope, checked it with the dim light of the computer screen, and nodded to Ron. The goods are fine. That's good. Ron put away his pistol and elegantly saluted the three robbers as a gentleman. Thank you for your cooperation. Wait, seeing that Ron and Arthur were about to leave, the leader finally couldn't help but stop them again. What are you going to do with the evidence? Then don't bother you, Ron said, while taking out two dart launchers from the backpack he just brought with him, and aiming out from the office. The location of this office is just on the other side of the building they came from, facing the three-story supermarket opposite, and the office is on the fourth floor, and the height difference is just enough for them to slide over. But there is one thing I can guarantee, that is, the owner of this thing will definitely receive the punishment he deserves, which is worse than being ruined. Are you satisfied with this answer? After saying that, with a swish, two darts flew out of the machine and nailed to the roof of the supermarket opposite. Arthur slid over first, and made an okay gesture to Ron on the roof of the supermarket. Ron jumped onto the windowsill and hung the zipline on the rope. Well, goodbye, gentlemen. After saying that, Ron jumped, and the dark night returned to the sky over Los Angeles. But this time he didn't have the good luck last time. The police patrolling downstairs found him first. Batman? FXXK. The robber is trying to escape. Call someone, the police leader shouted loudly and quickly shot at Batman in the sky. Chapter 243. Sheldon changes his orientation. Although Ron and Arthur were discovered by patrolling police when they were retreating, they still managed to evacuate successfully before the police force surrounded them in large numbers with their excellent skills. Ron made a copy of the envelope and handed it to Arthur to negotiate with Mr. Cass, the actual controller of the bank. Sure enough, Mr. Cass wilted halfway when he saw the envelope, and when Arthur showed his IRS ID, he sat on his high-end sofa with a pale face. If he was not still breathing, Arthur would have suspected that the old man was dead. I know you. You are the subordinate of that hungry wolf, the old man shouted loudly, and then cursed a series of swear words, but after cursing, when he took a deep breath, the old man finally calmed down. Okay, what does that hungry wolf want, Mr. Ron just wants you to pay the taxes you owe over the years. This is the details he listed. Arthur handed the details Ron gave him to the old man. The old man immediately picked up his reading glasses and started to read. The more he read, the heavier his breath became. In the end, he started to curse again. This is totally unreasonable. These are not tax arrears, but tax avoidance. No matter how top tax offices you find to check, my accounts can withstand scrutiny. I got all this money by tax avoidance with my ability. Why should I pay it back? The old man was furious. He tore the copy into pieces and threw it into the sky, which immediately scattered all over the room. Then you can do it. Arthur was too lazy to talk nonsense with the old man. If he had that spare time, he might as well go home to accompany his girlfriend. He said impatiently, Ron's meaning is very clear. Pay taxes or make that thing public. You can only choose one. Even if you tear it up, it's useless. We still have a lot of copies of that kind in our office. Mr. Ron said that if you want, he can post this thing all over the street, and can also fax it to Mossad to share it. No. You absolutely can't do this. The old man's face flushed red in an instant. No one knew better than him what would happen if this evidence fell into the hands of Mossad. His former partner who worked for the government was discovered by Mossad. As a result, when he was driving to play golf with him, His home and his car turned into a fireball and flew into the sky. This left a deep impression on him. Arthur did not speak, but just looked at the old man coldly. The old man looked at him unwillingly, but soon softened. Okay, I get it. I'll pay the tax, but I don't have that much cash right now. Can it wait, Mr. Ron said that he is willing to accept the Facebook shares in your hand to pay off the debt, but the price certainly cannot be calculated according to the current market price. Arthur's mouth twitched. His original words were, "So many stocks, I'll help you take them all at once. You have to give me a wholesale price, I think 20% off vampires." "You are simply a group of vampires." The old man felt his blood pressure soar to his forehead, but Arthur was not ashamed, but proudly said, "The same, but the difference is that you suck the blood of ordinary people, and our IRS has always only sucked the blood of the rich." Everything that happened after that had nothing to do with Ron. Arthur handled everything very skillfully. So, the next day, as soon as Ron got up, he received a text message from Andy about the tax arrival. Ron smiled with satisfaction at the $20 million in cash and $50 million worth of Facebook stock. With Facebook's current upward trend, these stocks will be able to nearly double by this time next year. Ron stretched with satisfaction, put on his pajamas and planned to go to the apartment next door to eat something. Since Penny and Leonard got together, they have never made breakfast properly. Ron always eats Sheldon's breakfast. Then, when Sheldon asked him for food money, he just wrote a bad check to deal with it. Anyway, Sheldon often didn't cash his salary checks, let alone the food money given by Ron. With Sheldon's income, he was actually very rich. Moreover, in his words, the things he really wanted to buy were not available at all now, so Sheldon's financial situation was quite good. In this way, Ron was equivalent to getting Sheldon's food money for free every day. But this morning was a little different. As soon as Ron opened the door, he saw Sheldon, who always only had milk and cereal for breakfast, surprisingly holding a plate of surprisingly rich breakfast and a flute. He didn't know what he was going to do. On the plate, there was juice, coffee, and some pancakes with bacon on top. Although it was pitifully simple for Ron, who was used to Chinese breakfast, believe me, for any American, this breakfast was enough to be called rich. "Oh my God, what day is today? You actually prepared such a rich breakfast for me. I clearly remember that my birthday is still several months away." Ron took the plate very skillfully, "But thank you, Sheldon, I will add a tip for your service to the food expenses this month anyway." It was a blank check. Ron didn't mind being generous. "No. These are not for you. If you want to have breakfast, there are cereals and milk over there. They are for my best friend Leonard." Sheldon snorted and stretched out his hand to snatch it, but quickly retracted his hand. Because Ron had already grabbed a piece of pancake wrapped in bacon and started eating it without any hesitation, and when he saw Sheldon reaching out, he immediately used the hand that had taken the food to stop him. Okay, the food is yours. I'll go make another one for Leonard." Sheldon stomped his feet in anger, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that he could not beat Ron, from childhood to adulthood. Ron looked up in surprise. "To Leonard? When did you two become so close? So good that you prepare such breakfast for him so early in the morning? I say, your sexual orientation hasn't changed, has it? Did Penny agree to break up with Leonard? Or is she willing to continue to cover up your love? But you'd better not tell your mother first. I don't think she can accept it for a while, although I guess she is ready for you to live alone for the rest of your life. But, homosexuality, my God, it's too much of a blow to a devout Christian." Sheldon widened his eyes. "What are you talking about? I just want to be friendlier to my roommate." "Friendlier?" Ron asked puzzledly, turning his head to look out a window. "So, the aliens kidnapped you yesterday and made a substitute standing in front of me? What happened to my brother? Give my brother back." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Flattering Sheldon. Ron didn't believe Sheldon's words. Although Leonard deserved to be treated like this, if Sheldon was so reasonable, he would not be Sheldon. Ron walked to the kitchen with a plate. While eating the food, he looked at Sheldon strangely as he started cooking again. He even drew a face of something on the pancake. Crazy. Ron felt that the world was going crazy. Such a reasonable person must not be my brother. Ron stuffed the last bite of food into his mouth, and Sheldon also completed the last step and put the food on the plate again. He was wary of Ron and walked into Leonard's bedroom with the plate. Ron also wiped his mouth and followed in. He wanted to see what tricks Sheldon was playing this time. Sure enough, Sheldon's behavior became more and more weird as he expected. Sheldon walked to Leonard's bed, put the plate aside, and then took out a flute. The soothing melody floated out of the flute and filled the whole room. Leonard also woke up slowly with comfort and a smile, and met Sheldon's eyes. "Good morning, my old buddy." Ron didn't know why. He actually heard a hint of flattery in Sheldon's voice. Ron was confused. Did Sheldon really start to covet Leonard's body? Of course, Ron was not the only one who was confused, but also Leonard, who had just woken up. "What are you doing, Sheldon? I made you breakfast, with juice, coffee, and some pancakes, and on top is your favorite character, Frodo." Well, Ron finally knew who the strange person on the pancake was. "You actually made Frodo pancakes?" "Of course, I used coconut shavings for the leg hair. If you need to empty your bladder before eating, I will use this beret to warm it for you. Don't worry, I have cleaned it and it is just soft enough to cover the pancakes." Sheldon took out a beret and put it on the pancakes for demonstration. Ron's eyes twitched. "That looks like my beret. Hey, you also borrowed Batman's clothes. When you returned it to me yesterday, there was a hole in the cape, but I didn't bother you." Sheldon turned around and yelled at Ron fiercely. Ron spread his hands. There was nothing he could do about it. When he left the bank yesterday, he was discovered by the police and shot at him. Although no one shot hit his body, the area of the cape was too large, so it was normal for him to be shot. Leonard asked suspiciously, "What is your purpose?" Sheldon immediately put on a well-behaved smile. "I apologize for my recent behavior. After thinking about it for some time, I finally realized that friendship cannot be maintained by a bunch of agreements in black and white, but requires mutual respect and understanding between two people." Sheldon picked up a pancake with a clit and handed it to Leonard's mouth. "Would you like to try a cream pancake?" "Thank you." Leonard took it, tasted it, and found it unexpectedly delicious. "It tastes good." Sheldon immediately added, "This contains my full respect and gratitude, and of course, a pound of margarine. After you finish your meal, I think we can watch the Babylon 5 review version together today. Don't you hate Babylon 5? Of course, there is neither science fiction nor plot. It's a complete bad movie, but you like it, my old buddy, and we're friends." "Oh my god, the aliens must have kidnapped my brother." Ron was embarrassed by this flattery. "Okay, great." Leonard took a sip of coffee comfortably. "But I still won't take you to Switzerland." "Damn it." Sheldon's face immediately fell, and he picked up the plate that had just been placed in front of Leonard and walked away. "I won't let you eat the breakfast I made." OMG. Ron made a cross on his chest exaggeratedly. "The aliens finally returned my brother." "Seriously, Leonard, how did you make my brother so obedient? Tell me, I must learn from you." "It's nothing, it's just that he has been pestering me to take him to Switzerland. I said it when we were having dinner together the day before yesterday. Do you remember? I have the qualifications to take people to visit the Collider." Leonard stretched on the bed and said depressedly, "He almost quarreled with me all day yesterday because of this. If you have any way, can you help me control Sheldon?" "That's none of my business." Ron sat down beside Leonard's bed and gave half of his bacon pancake to Leonard. "But I don't understand why you don't want to take him with you when you know he's so difficult. You know that if you don't agree, he will keep pestering you." "Ron, that day was Valentine's Day." Leonard was almost going crazy because of Sheldon's torment. "This is the first Valentine's Day that Penny and I have spent together. Think about it, is there anything more romantic than being on the snow-capped mountains of the Alps, looking at the snow scenery, you know?" Hearing that Ron was starting to help him get a chance, Sheldon quietly poked his head out of the door. Ron looked at his pitiful appearance and couldn't help laughing. "But, I don't hear any inevitable conflict between these two things." Ron spread his hands. "This is not a difficult task. Why don't you just bring both of them?" Leonard was anxious. "But there are only 2 visitors limited to the Swiss Collider, and there are 3 of us. Sometimes I really doubt your IQ, whether you are really smart. This is obviously a very easy problem to solve, but you make it so complicated." Leonard asked quickly, "Do you have any solution?" Ron stood up, and his eyes happened to catch Sheldon, who was eavesdropping outside the door. Sheldon quickly shrank back like a frightened deer. "It's a pity that I haven't had enough breakfast, otherwise I can definitely help you think of a win-win solution." "Tisk tisk, what a pity," Ron said, pretending to be helpless and walked towards the door. Sheldon rushed in and brought the breakfast that was originally intended for Leonard to him. "Breakfast is here. If you don't have enough, I can make it for you again. As long as you can let me visit the collider, I'll let me do anything." "Really?" Ron smiled slyly. Sheldon had a bad feeling, but in order to support his dream of visiting the collider, he gritted his teeth and said, "Of course it's true. As long as you can let me visit, I can even make an agreement with you now and do anything for you." Ron shrugged. "That's not necessary. I still have full trust in your obsessive-compulsive disorder, so, can you tell me the method?" "Of course, that is." Chapter 245 Ron's Valentine's Day Plan. Ron looked at Leonard. "Let me ask you, is the quota for visiting the collider limited to 2 people?" "Yes, I can only bring one more person, so I chose Penny." Leonard nodded, and in return Sheldon glared at him, but Leonard chose to ignore it. "But, I think Penny should not be interested in visiting the collider, right? She should be more interested in going skiing in Switzerland, right?" Leonard and Sheldon nodded at the same time. "Isn't this obvious? It would be really weird for a typical blonde like Penny to be interested in science. It's as outrageous as Sheldon going to the bar to dance pole dancing turntips like Fiona's brother Ian. However, if there really comes such a day, Ron promises that he will definitely bring Georgia and Missy to show his support, and I believe everyone is still willing to give some tips. So, why don't you put Penny on the list of visitors? You and Sheldon should still register the list, but Penny can buy a separate ticket and go with you. I believe that if you are willing to take Sheldon to visit the collider, he will be very happy to pay for all of Penny's air tickets and accommodation." "Right, Sheldon." Ron patted Sheldon's back, and Sheldon nodded frantically like a Labrador who heard the master's order. "Please, as long as you take me, I will treat Penny to Swiss cheese every day." "This seems to work." Leonard was stunned. He had never thought of this method, but after Ron said it, he thought about it and it seemed to work. Penny was definitely not interested in the collider. Even if Leonard took her with him, she would probably not be interested in the whole tour process. Or, Penny was the kind of person who would rather sleep in a hotel than visit a strange machine that was hundreds of millions times more complicated than a coffee machine. But Sheldon is different. Not only is he very interested, he can even interact with Leonard with his outstanding knowledge. The most important thing is that he is willing to pay for Penny's expenses. So it seems that Leonard is the one who benefits the most. "Okay, I agree." "Yes." Sheldon cheered and happily went back to his room to pack his luggage. He still had a lot of preparations to do before the trip, such as barcoding each pair of socks so that he could find them at any time. Although this behavior seemed to Ron to be a waste of time. Of course, Ron couldn't have gained nothing by helping Sheldon solve the problem. Just think about it, how could Ron be purely kind? He got a whole floor with 2 uninhabited apartments. If he didn't consider the fire in the backyard, he could try to invite all the women who had ambiguous feelings with him to have a party. Just think about it, hang a colorful light ball in each of the 2 living rooms, and then Caroline's long legs, Max's XX, Giselle's coolness, Fiona's enthusiasm. He can even make a small box, put the paper balls with everyone's name written on them in it, and hold a lottery event with music every day before going to bed. The lucky female guest whose name is drawn will get a reward of a happy night. It's exciting to think about it. By the way, I almost forgot about Hope, the former gymnast and current gymnastics coach who looks almost exactly like Howard's fiancée Bernadette, but is several levels more flexible. On the day when Ron was concentrating on dealing with the bank robbers, she also sent a text message, expressing that she was free on Valentine's Day. If he invited her over this Valentine's Day, maybe he could unlock some new knowledge. Especially the photo that looks almost the same as Bernadette, it can add a few more special colors. Ron sat on the sofa and began to daydream. However, although the vision is good, it is difficult to execute it. First of all, Caroline still doesn't know about his special relationship with Max. Of course, she may already know, but she doesn't know how to face it and is pretending to be confused. But no matter what, before pointing out a matter and sitting down with them to have a good talk, the idea of inviting them both together is still very unrealistic. So, maybe they can be separated and invited on different days? For example, Caroline on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and Max on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Fiona and Giselle are easy to deal with. They have met each other more than once, and neither of them has ever regarded themselves as Ron's girlfriend, and Hope has never thought about it in this way. Here, Ron has to thank the special love concept of Americans, who can actually distinguish these things very clearly. But the trouble is Collins. The little girl will go to college next year. Recently, with the encouragement of Aunt Mary and Leanne, her offensive against Ron has become more and more fierce, and she has the momentum to win Ron before he goes to college. And the old friendship between the two families cannot be allowed to be reckless by Ron. Even if there was no such relationship, he couldn't bear to do anything to such a simple and lovely woman. God knows how hard Ron endured. Especially a few days ago, Collins asked Ron out for dinner, and Ron went without thinking, and it turned out that day was the girl's 18th birthday. When Ron asked her what wish she made in front of the birthday cake, Collins blushed, and after a long time, she secretly told him that the wish was. Ron's blood boiled when he heard it, but fortunately, thanks to his strong self-control, he finally held back, otherwise he would definitely not be able to explain to the parents of both sides. And now, Valentine's Day is approaching, and Ron is thinking about how to not hurt Collins, but also let her understand his true situation clearly. Thinking of this, Ron stayed at home until the evening and did almost nothing. Ron was brought back from his thoughts by the vibration of his cell phone. He picked up the phone and it turned out to be a call from Claire's cousin. Ron directly pressed the answer button. "Good evening, Claire," but Claire's tone was very anxious. She didn't even have time to say a polite greeting and went straight to the point. "Sorry to bother you tonight, Ron, but Haley was arrested." "Haley was arrested?" Ron asked in surprise. "Why was she arrested?" "She was arrested for drinking at the party." "Can you go with me?" There is a law in the United States that Ron thinks is very strange, that is, the Minimum Drinking Age Act. This law prohibits individuals under the age of 21 from purchasing or publicly possessing alcoholic beverages. Haley is the same age as Collins and has just turned 18, which is obviously not in compliance with the regulations. Of course, Ron agreed without hesitation regarding family matters, but I suggest you take Mitchell with you. He's a lawyer and might be able to come in handy. The temperature suddenly dropped and I stayed outside in 5 degrees for almost a whole day wearing summer clothes. I got a fever from the cold. I'll put on a blanket first and make up for it tomorrow when I recover. Chapter 246 Haley in Trouble. Yes, you are right. I will call Mitchell right now. If Haley is sued, we will definitely need a lawyer. After Ron's reminder, Claire finally came up with an idea and returned to her usual strong character. No, I mean, we can see if Haley has been subjected to violent law enforcement or any harm during the law enforcement process. In that case, we will need a lawyer to sue the police station over there for compensation. Ron put on his coat and put the phone back to his ear. Although I know another very difficult lawyer, that guy charges too much, so in comparison, Mitchell is more cost-effective. Haley's university is California State University, Fresno, located in Fresno, a city in Central California, just northwest of Los Angeles, between the two big cities of Los Angeles and San Francisco, and closer to San Francisco. Jixiangwu is a bulldog, and it is also Phil Dunphy's alma mater. But Dunphy was not excited about returning to his alma mater. For the first time in Ron's memory, his smiling face looked so serious. Ron patted his stiff shoulders and comforted him. "Relax, man, it's just a drink. Believe me, it's no big deal. We all did this in college." She just got caught because of bad luck, but Ron's words did not make Phil relax. Instead, they aroused Claire's nervous reaction. She drove slower and slower. The originally irritable mother almost became a good driver. "Claire, can you drive faster? When did you start driving according to the limit?" Mitchell asked before Ron could speak. "My daughter was arrested and jailed for drinking. I hope she can reflect on herself for a while in there. I even want to stop the car and buy something from a roadside store before continuing on my way. Who wants to buy a pair of last year's sunglasses?" Even Phil couldn't help but comfort the nervous Claire. "Relax, dear, I can't relax, Phil. She's only been in college for 6 weeks. Claire slapped the steering wheel hard. "Yes, everyone goes a little crazy when they go in. I remember one night in my first year of college, some people from our disc golf team brought a box of Chicago beer to the dormitory. Needless to say, what happened next?" Phil used his own example to resonate with Mitchell. "Needless to say, we all had that experience in college, so, Claire, you're really a little too nervous. Haley just wasn't smart enough, so she was caught by those policemen who were eager to achieve results. Instead of blaming all the mistakes on Haley, you might as well give half of it to this ridiculous law. Think about it, in this country, a person can get married and have children at the age of 18, but you have to wait until you are 22 to legally drink. It's ridiculous." But Claire wanted to argue something else. but was interrupted by Ron. Sadly, among the three men in the car, only Ron had the courage to interrupt the irritable Claire when she was speaking. Think about it, Claire. Haley was arrested just for drinking, and not for taking drugs, robbing a bank, shooting someone or anything like that. Isn't this something to be thankful for? What kind of college students would do those things? If you watch the news often, you'll find that there are quite a few kids who play very crazy. Some are even crazier than we were back then. Ron shrugged. To be honest, it's a bit of an exaggeration to be so serious about alcoholic beverages. If they would just use some of this energy to deal with drug dealers, drugs wouldn't be so rampant today. That's right, just like Ron said. Phil gave Ron a grateful look and quickly agreed. Hey, are you hungry? Do you want to buy some waffles before we continue on our way? But Phil's words only earned a roll of the eyes from Claire. Ron, I'm just worried about what to do now. The previous words finally made Claire feel a little better. We have done a lot of ridiculous things before, but we have never been caught. I don't know how to deal with this kind of thing. Believe me, believe Mitchell, this is a trivial matter, Ron joked. Besides, in a capitalist country like ours, there is nothing that money can't solve. If it really doesn't work, you can also use cash to fan the police in front of them, and they will understand what you mean. Just like that, 2 hours later, they finally drove to the Fresno Police Department. Before entering the door, Mitchell even deliberately straightened his clothes in front of the reflection of the glass door, and then walked in with the momentum of appearing in court. Hello, we are here for Haley Dunphy. I am Mitchell Pritchett, Miss Dunphy's lawyer. She doesn't need a lawyer today. The police simply checked the information without raising his head. I think I should have the final say. I need to talk to my client now. Thank you. Mitchell finished reading the lines he had just copied from the movie on the way here, and quickly picked up a document and pretended to read it to cover up his excessive nervousness. The police looked up blankly. You only need to pay the bail and you can take her away. Really? That's great, Claire cheered. Sir, I really don't want to excuse my daughter, believe me, but don't you think it's a bit of a waste of public resources to arrest and detain kids on campus just because they drank a little alcohol? The police's expression became a little unhappy. Mom, your daughter is charged with resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer. What? Claire and Phil opened their mouths in surprise. Maybe you should find a real lawyer, Mitchell whispered. Okay, let me do it. Ron saw that they were all at a loss, and walked out from the back. Sir, can you please take another look? I think there must be some misunderstanding. Haley is just a rebellious child, but I think no matter how rebellious she is, she has never been so rebellious. Maybe you should take a look at this. The police turned the computer screen around, and saw that it was playing the footage of the arrest. A poor policeman just shouted, "Stop, put your hands where I can see," and then he was knocked to the ground by a girl who fell from the sky. Chapter 247 Training Day. To be honest, Ron felt a pain in his neck after watching this shot. Ron was sure that the poor policeman's neck would not be healed for at least a week. Although Haley's weight was within the range of normal girls, the force of falling from such a high place under the influence of gravity acceleration was definitely not light. This set of shots is very blurry. How can we be sure that it was Haley? Mitchell continued to be stubborn. The policeman didn't even have the mood to answer. He glared at him and continued to watch the screen. Before the video was finished, Haley stood up from the unlucky policeman who was crushed and was caught by the policeman who was recording the video. Don't hurt me, I'm just a student. My name is Haley Dunphy. Haley raised her hands and shouted in horror. Although the resolution of the camera was not high, the face of the girl involved could still be seen clearly. That was Haley. Claire took out a stack of US dollars from her handbag at a loss and fanned it in front of the police. It's so hot today. Ron covered his face in embarrassment. I said, what was Claire doing by parking on the side of the road just now? So you were going to get money? I was just joking. Did you take it seriously? Don't be like that. I was just joking. Ron pressed down Claire's hand that was holding the money, took out his ID and flashed it in front of the police. You guys go over there and rest for a while, and I'll take care of the rest. Drinking itself is a trivial matter. Generally, after being caught, you can be released as long as you pay the bail, and even the school won't be alerted. But Haley's nature is different. She also attacked the police. Although it was unintentional, this action means that she will have to face at least 50 hours of community service and report this behavior to the school. In that case, she may also face the possibility of being expelled. Of course, Claire also realized the troublesomeness of it, so she made such an unwise move, that is, in public, nakedly taking money to try to bribe a police officer. However, this big trouble in the eyes of ordinary people was quickly solved by Ron. He only made 2 phone calls and suppressed the matter. The police station agreed not to treat Haley differently, but suspended her from school for 2 weeks along with other students who were caught drinking. However, the condition was that Haley had to participate in the police station's experience activities during the suspension period and submit a summary of her experience of no less than 1,000 words at the end. "Thank you, Ron. If it weren't for you, Haley would have been expelled," Claire said as she drove. "Oh my God, it's so hard to find a decent university willing to accept her. If she is expelled again, she won't be able to go to college." "Nothing, as I said, these are all trivial matters," Phil still said with some concern, "but I'm still worried about letting Haley participate in the experience activities in that police station. She just injured the police officer there, and they will definitely not treat her well." "Don't worry, this is easy. I can talk to Hobbs and ask him to arrange Haley's experience activities at the Los Angeles Police Department. It just so happens that it's the training day for new police officers soon. I heard that the FBI plans to take this opportunity to publicize it and can squeeze Haley in as well." "Training day? What is that?" "This is a popular term among us," Ron explained while eating waffles. "Usually when those rookies who have just graduated from the police academy report to the police station, they will be arranged for an old bird to take him to familiarize himself with the situation in the jurisdiction and the law enforcement methods. The FBI, CIA and IRS all have such a tradition. If the FBI wants someone, the local police station will definitely agree." "Cool." Phil was still a little worried. "Will she be in any danger?" "Of course not. Do you think those old birds are vegetarians? They are the elite among the elites. Although they are far worse than me, it is enough to protect a little girl. What's more, under normal circumstances, the training day is just to take the newcomers to familiarize themselves with the work environment. No one will fuck the newcomers to death right away. If you are still worried, you can let me take care of them." I promised Hobbs that I would help him train a newcomer. At this point, Ron's tone was a little depressed. There was no way not to feel depressed. Fiona's younger brother, Ian, the 3rd child of the Gallagher family, wanted to be a soldier. He had tried to join the military camp before, but was rejected. So, he had to settle for the next best thing and changed his ideal to become a police officer. But for some reason, Ron always felt that the way he looked at him was a little abnormal. It was not like the way a man looked at another man, but a little like the way Fiona looked at him. It was full of affection and a little shy, which made Ron feel uneasy. However, considering the weird father of the Gallagher family, it seemed normal to be a little strange. But for some reason, Ron always felt that it was better not to stay alone with him. For Fiona's sake, Ron arranged for him to enter the police academy. He was also one of the newcomers who came to report, but in exchange, Ron had to agree to the Big Stupid Bear's request to come and help train the rookies. Although the work of the IRS and the FBI has nothing to do with each other, Ron can do everything that the FBI can do, and he can do it better than them. "Really? That's great, thank you so much, Ron," Claire said gratefully, and Ron turned his head to look at the excited Haley next to him, and felt a headache. "Ian, plus Haley, do you really treat this place as a kindergarten? But there is no way. Who makes them family?" It must be said that Ron and Toretto have been playing together for too long, and they are increasingly feeling like a family man. 5 days later, on the training day, Ron directly asked Ian to meet at Uncle Fried Chicken store. "Good morning, Ron," Ian greeted Ron stiffly. Almost sat obediently in the chair opposite Ron. Ron didn't say anything, just stared at his mobile phone, while looking at him with his peripheral vision, until Ian began to look around nervously. Ron slowly spoke. "Call me sir." "What?" Ian was startled by Ron's sudden voice. "I said, call me sir outside." Ron put down his phone and stared at Ian sharply. "Stand up and do it again." "Yes." Ian ran out the door, walked back in, and stood in front of Ron with a straight military posture. "Good morning, sir. Sit down." Ron nodded with satisfaction. "Do you know why I asked you to come here?" Ian shook his head, and Ron continued, "Because this is one of the largest forces in the Los Angeles drug market." Chapter 248 The Strange Black Police Officer. "Because this is one of the biggest drug gangs in Los Angeles. Look, the black cashier at the counter over there looks harmless. You would never guess that he is from Los Angeles." Ron was talking when Uncle Chicken brought Ron's order over himself. With Ron's previous preparation, Ian was so nervous that all his muscles collapsed. But Ron continued talking without any nervousness. No, it should be the largest methamphetamine manufacturer and supplier in the United States. His products are sold in almost every state in the United States and are well received by hippies. Thank you for the compliment. Uncle Chicken put down the food Ron ordered, as if he didn't hear what he said. You're welcome. You deserve such an evaluation. Although it may not be the right time now, believe me, sooner or later I will put you in jail, as you wish, Ron. But please don't forget that I have been waiting for the opportunity to kill you. Uncle Fried Chicken greeted with a very friendly smile on his face. Excuse me, sir, is there anything I can do for you? No, thank you. Uncle Fried Chicken did not talk much. Like a normal restaurant manager, he left their seat, and Ian had already slumped on the chair, sweating all over and breathing heavily. At first, when Ron introduced Uncle Fried Chicken like this, he didn't believe it, but just when Uncle Fried Chicken said that he wanted to kill Ron, the murderous aura that was as real as substance rushed to his face. Ian was like an animal that met its natural enemy. He froze there and couldn't even move a finger. It was not until he left that his body resumed movement. Ian grew up in the most chaotic slums in Los Angeles. He thought he had seen enough villains, but until just now, he realized that those so-called big men he thought of before were as ridiculous as children running around in adult clothes in front of Uncle Fried Chicken. Why? After a long time, Ian finally uttered a few incoherent words from his trembling lips, while Ron, who was sitting opposite him, was not affected at all, but ate with relish. You want to ask me why I can still eat? You are not afraid that he will poison you, right? Ian nodded. Because he has no need to do so, Ron shrugged and said easily, just like I know his identity now, but I can't kill him, he can't do anything to me, and can only passively accept that I collect taxes from him on schedule every quarter. Although this sounds incredible, from another perspective, we are even in a mutually dependent relationship. How is this possible? Aren't the police and drug dealers fighting to the death? Ian opened his mouth in surprise. Listen to me, Ron put away his initial cynicism, and his attitude and face suddenly became serious. This is my first lesson for you, rookie. This world is never a world of black and white. I think you who grew up in the slums should understand this very well, just like the guy just now. On the one hand, he needs me to fight other drug dealers and his competitors who keep emerging, so that he can maintain the greatest advantage and firmly control the methamphetamine business. But on the other hand, I also need to deal with a guy who is smart enough. I can kill him, but the chaos in the underworld caused by killing him will cause greater harm to the city. Do you understand? If you can't even figure this out, you'd better change to another job as soon as possible. Otherwise you will be shot to death on the street sooner or later. Ron's words are very realistic, but they are also true. She even has a darker part that she didn't say, that is, the supporter behind Uncle Fried Chicken is the CIA, an existence that even Ron can't do anything about. And now, this delicate situation between Ron and Uncle Fried Chicken is actually a result of the compromise between the two forces. Just waiting for the day when this balance is broken, whether it is the Fried Chicken uncle or Ron, they will find a way to kill the other party at the first opportunity. It is precisely for this reason that Ron has been constantly expanding his power. Judging from the current situation, if a war breaks out, Ron believes that his side still has a greater chance of winning. Ian swallowed hard and nodded. Ron finally showed a satisfied expression and pushed the plate in front of Ian. Come on, try this fried chicken. Their taste is really good. You can come here often when you are on patrol in the future. Hurry up and finish eating. I will take you to the street. Ian's first lesson as a rookie was relatively smooth, but on the other side, Jack, who graduated from the same police academy as him, encountered some troubles. Good morning, sir. Jack walked into the restaurant and greeted a black officer who was sitting at his seat and reading a newspaper with some restraint. The waiter handed over the menu, and Jack waved his hand to indicate that he didn't need it. Have breakfast before you get down to business. It's my treat. The black officer continued to read the newspaper without even looking up. Thank you, I've already eaten. Okay, whatever you want. The black officer did not force himself and continued to read the newspaper without saying a word. The scene suddenly fell into a stalemate. Jack looked around awkwardly, and finally couldn't help but break the silence first, saying something. This place looks good. The black officer put down the newspaper and stared at Jack from behind his glasses. I want to read the newspaper carefully. Okay, then I'd better eat something first. Jack raised his hand, intending to call the waiter over, but she was rejected by the black officer again. No, you've missed your chance. Now please keep quiet and let me read the newspaper." The black officer's eyes were sharp, like a beast ready to choose someone to eat, and Jack shuddered all over. "Okay, sir." After another 10-minute silence, Jack tried to open the topic again. "It's nice not to have to sit in a police car that's like an oven." The black officer finally smiled, revealing a mouthful of white teeth that contrasted sharply with his skin color, and then made a very nonsensical request. "Tell me a story." "You want to hear my story?" Jack was a little surprised, but fortunately he had prepared to introduce himself. "No, I want to tell you another story." "If you don't want to tell it, shut up and let me read the newspaper, or you can tell me a story." "I can't tell stories." "Okay, then I'll tell you a story." The black officer put away the newspaper. "This is a newspaper. 90% of it is nonsense, but it's very entertaining. I read the newspaper for entertainment. You've been bothering me there, so it's your turn to make me happy. Tell me a story, right now, hurry up." Chapter 249 Black Police. Then, Jack told a story about how he stopped a drunk driver and thus prevented a murder. But the strange thing was that the black police officer in front of him was not concerned about how many drugs and weapons the drunk driver was carrying, but kept asking the female police officer who was patrolling with him about her figure with dirty words. This made him feel a little bit wrong, but what was even more wrong was that after going through some difficulties, the first task that the black officer took him on was to ignore the drug dealers and stop the car of the college students who were buying drugs, and robbed the two poor guys of all their cash in an almost robber-like manner, and then proudly showed off the banknotes in front of him. Jack couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "Is this person really the drug-fighting hero in the rumors? He looks like the most common black gangster on the street, and he is still unreasonable." This feeling of something being wrong became stronger and stronger, until the black officer handed him a pipe. "Hey, the purpose of my being a policeman is to stop people from taking drugs. I will never touch that stuff." The black officer persuaded again. "This is not cocaine. Take a puff." "No, I will never touch that stuff." But this time, the black officer did not indulge him. He suddenly braked and stopped the car in the middle of the road. Before he could say anything else, a gun was pointed at his forehead. "If I were a drug dealer, you would be dead now." Jack raised his hand inexplicably. "Boy, are you still unconvinced? Do you think our job is just playing house? As drug enforcement police, we often have to mix with various drug dealers. Imagine if you are undercover and they suddenly hand you a pipe and ask you to try it. What are you going to do?" The black officer used a lecturing tone. "At that time, will you still tell them that you will never touch this thing? Believe me, you will have no other fate except dying in the line of duty. Is there something wrong with you? Listen to me, I don't want you to join my recording team. Now I want you to get out of the car and go back to the office." Jack's eyes were red, and he felt that his determination was insulted. He suddenly snatched the pipe from the black officer's hand, lit it, and took a big puff. He was convinced. Then he coughed because of the smoke in the pipe. Then, Jack felt his head getting more and more dizzy in the officer's praise, and everything around him became drowsy, and his black officer, a strange smile curved at the corner of his mouth. Ron and Ian's training day was very simple. Ron drove him around several streets in Los Angeles and introduced him to all the local bosses including Uncle Fried Chicken, Toretto and others, so that everyone knew that Ian was his man. With this identity blessing, Ron believed that as long as they were within the scope of Los Angeles, everyone would give him some face. Remember what I said. If you encounter a drug dealer that you can't handle, call Uncle Fried Chicken. He will be happy to help you deal with his own competitors. If you encounter various racing gangs, report Toretto's name and tell them that you are Toretto's family. Believe me, no one in this city dares to be arrogant enough to continue to show their teeth to you. If you encounter a special situation and you meet a real desperado, then run quickly, run for your life, run to my base, even if I take my men out to perform a mission. The old men in the base are enough to help you deal with all the gangsters except the regular army." Ron continued to explain with concern. "Don't look at their age, but I can guarantee that you can't find a more elite team than them in the whole of Los Angeles." Speaking of which, Ron was also worried about his brother-in-law. Although it was Ian's own wish to be a policeman, if he was hurt, Fiona would definitely be sad, and Ron never wanted to see his woman sad. Ian tried to remember what Ron said while looking at the scenery outside the window. Suddenly, he shouted hurriedly, "Stop the car, stop the car." Ron slammed the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. "What's going on?" "There's a fight in the alley over there. I know that guy. It's Jack, who graduated from the police academy with me." Ian pushed open the car door and ran over there anxiously. Ron was afraid that he would get hurt, so he followed him. In the alley, a handsome white guy was fighting with two homeless people, and he was losing the upper hand. Because when he controlled one of them with a naked stranglehold, the other guy immediately rushed to his side and kicked him in the abdomen frantically. He had no power to fight back at all, and could only rely on his physical fitness to resist. However, after Ian joined the battle, the balance of victory immediately tilted towards him. Ian ran into the alley quickly, and just when he was about to get close to Jack, he suddenly kicked the homeless man who was kicking Jack, making him stagger, and immediately rescued Jack. The homeless man turned around angrily, and just as he was about to teach the person who attacked him a lesson, a dark shadow covered his entire vision. After Ian succeeded in one strike, he immediately raised a trash can and smashed it at him. The homeless man was knocked unconscious, and at this moment, the homeless man who was controlled by Jack with a naked choke on the ground also fainted due to lack of oxygen. So far, the police academy duo has won a great victory. How is it? Are you okay? Ron reached out and pulled up the girl hiding in the corner. If he guessed correctly, all this dispute should be caused by her. Why is Ron so sure? Because the high school uniform on the girl was almost torn open, and a large area of skin on her chest was exposed. As expected, this was another robbery case motivated by beauty, but before it was carried out, it was dealt with by two rookie policemen who had just started training. Can you tell me what's going on? You're dead. The girl came to her senses and immediately kicked the homeless man who had fainted on the ground in the buttocks. Hey, don't be impulsive, okay? Ron pulled the girl with a headache, and Ian also pulled Jack up. Ron frowned and said, "Gentlemen, I have no intention of stopping your brave performance, but in this situation just now, you should have shot first." Chapter 250 Tang Ren Comes to America. This is, Jack looked up and asked hesitantly at Ron's tall figure. Ian quickly explained, "This is my training officer, Ron." "Hello, sir." Jack straightened his body. Ron waved his hand to signal him to relax and then went to comfort the victim girl. Taking this opportunity, Jack hurriedly thanked his good friend. "Thank you, Ian. If you hadn't come, I would have needed a lot of effort to deal with these two guys." Jack stretched out his hand and was about to shake it, but Ian hugged him unexpectedly. Ron squinted his eyes and felt that Ian seemed a little bit wrong the more he looked at him. On the other side of the alley, Jack's black superior walked in from the other side with a smile. For some reason, his smile made Ron feel very uncomfortable. What was even more uncomfortable was that the guy actually put all the cash found on the two gangsters into his wallet. Ron's eyes trembled, but he didn't say anything. What does the FBI have to do with the IRS? Ron came here to help today. After a brief interlude, Ron received a text message, and then a flash of joy flashed across his face. He casually dropped Ian off in a neighborhood with many drug dealers, under the pretext of letting him be baptized by the streets, and then drove away in a flash. Originally, Ron had been forced by several women to spend Valentine's Day with him, but the text message just now provided him with a new choice. If he couldn't afford to fend, could he not hide? Ron didn't drive home, but drove all the way to the airport and bought the next flight to New York. At the New York airport, a Chinese-American teenager who looked weak was playing with his mobile phone in the long line of customs. He was playing a very popular detective game recently, Detective Master. It is an exclusive community for global reasoning enthusiasts. Many people upload real cases in it for everyone to discuss. It has magically significantly improved the crime-solving rate in some areas. The most interesting thing is that there is not a single official from each country on the detective ranking list, which makes more professionals sneer at it. For example, Ron was dissatisfied with this ranking. What credibility can a ranking of online communities for amateurs to entertain themselves have? And the name of the Chinese boy was listed at the second highest position in the ranking. However, just when he was playing with his mobile phone, the customs police knocked on the window impatiently. Taifeng looked up blankly. It turned out that he was here. "What is the purpose of your coming to the United States?" The black police took the passport document handed over by Taifeng and asked cautiously. However, when Taifeng was nervous, his old habit came back and he stuttered again. I halfway but couldn't I the rest of the words. The black police simply switched to the northeastern dialect of China. "What are you doing here? To attend a wedding?" Taifeng took out a Chinese wedding invitation, and the customs police who were familiar with the traditional Chinese culture immediately stamped his passport without hesitation. Taifeng. As soon as Taifeng came out of customs, he saw Ron, who had met him once in Thailand, standing in the hall and waving to him. Taifeng asked in surprise, You are here too? Of course, my senior brother is getting married, how could I not come? Ron stretched out his hand and shook his hand. See you again, welcome to America. Ron smiled meaningfully. Since he received Tang Ren's text message, he has been traveling for 6 hours to New York. When he arrived, with a 3-hour time difference, it was already night, so he simply stayed in a hotel next to the airport. Where is my cousin? How do I know? Maybe he is waiting outside the airport, Ron said without comment. The movie Detective Chinatown 2 was relatively close to the time he traveled through, and he still remembered most of the plot. Of course, he knew that the so-called wedding was just a scam by Tang Ren, and the purpose was just to trick Qin Feng to come with him to participate in the detective conference to earn bonuses. But after he came into being, Tang Ren actually sent him an invitation and tricked him to come. I don't know what he is doing. It can't be that he intends to use his special identity to facilitate the investigation of the case, right? The more Ron thought about it, the more he felt that it was very possible with Tang Ren's shameless character. However, Ron didn't mind being used by Tang Ren occasionally. Just as Tang Ren planned to use his identity to get the convenience of investigating the case, Ron certainly had his own plans. The new year was coming soon. Although the United States did not celebrate the Spring Festival, Ron, who adhered to the traditional Chinese concept, still felt that as the captain of the IRS Special Operations Team, he had to set an example for his subordinates and do a big business first to get off to a good start. For example, the gangs in Chinatown were a good choice. Thinking of this, Ron couldn't help but reveal a charming smile, which made several crazy girls in the airport scream. Let's go quickly, maybe he has prepared some surprises for you. Ron pushed Qin Feng and pushed him out of the airport gate. Outside, 2 burly black men were waiting there. When they saw Qin Feng coming out, they immediately took out a big black bag and covered his head. But when they were about to do the same to Ron, they encountered trouble. As soon as the 2 black men raised their hands, they were immediately pressed against their chins by 2 cold metal pipes. Be careful, my friends, my pistol has not been maintained for a long time. If it accidentally goes off, I will not be responsible. The 2 men immediately raised their hands very skillfully, and at the same time they were still wondering how this guy brought the pistol on the plane. Of course, Ron could not tell them the secret of his personal space. He just pulled down the sack on Qin Feng's head, who was about to break free. Don't be nervous, he is still yours. Now, take me to find your employer. An extended SUV drove to the door and stopped. The 2 black men escorted Taifeng to get in first. Before Ron got into the car, he heard Tang Ren's hoarse voice inside. Surprise. How is it? Lao Qin, are you surprised? Tang Ren was very excited. Wait, where's my junior brother? I'm here. Ron rubbed his ears and got into the car. In addition to Tang Ren, there were 2 rows of beauties of various skin colors in the car, and Tang Ren sat in the middle, wearing a baseball cap and a shit yellow animal fur. His dress was as rustic as it could be. He looked like a nouveau riche who just won the lottery. Long time no see, senior brother, your dress is still so tasteless. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.